It's time for Side Scrollers with me, Stuttering Craig. You decide when you lose, not other people. And Blabs.
I like pickles.
And co-hosted by our friends from around the internet. If you like common sense, hit that thumbs up button and, of course, the subscribe button. And join us Monday through Friday live at 11 a.m. Central Time. And now, broadcasting from our homes, it's time for the #1 gaming and entertainment podcast on God's green earth. It's time for Side Scrollers.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, welcome on out to Side Scrollers on YouTube.com and Rumble.com and SideScrollersPodcast.com. What's going on, everybody? Hi. Happy Monday to you. Stuttering Craig. Welcome to the #1 video game and entertainment podcast on God's green earth. Man, we got a good one today. I'm beyond excited to have Blabs joining us. Hi, Blabs. Oh, way to go.
Why was I muted? I don't remember doing that to myself. Anyway, hello. Happy Monday. I'm awake. I promise.
Looking sharp. Looking ready to go. Ready to go. Always on fire. It's good. I think we got to get you a new hat. Got to get you the new logo hat.
Yeah, I need an upgrade.
Yeah, we do. Speaking of upgrade, give it up for coming in sickly today. Mostly sickly. Picking it up from the kiddo. Flash, how are you, buddy?
Yo, doing good. Kinda.
No, you're not. Don't lie.
He sounds like really strong. He's like, yo, doing good.
You gave me it's like, guys, it's not good today.
Rip.
Not good. Hey, appreciate you toughing it out, big guy. What a stud. What a stud. Speaking of studs, hey, we got a couple studs today. This is going to be a great show today as we're talking all sorts of fun stuff, comics, and all these things that I truly, honestly, am really don't know a whole lot about, which is great, which is why we have Flash with us today. It's going to be awesome. But I'll tell you what, I'm excited to introduce first Gabe Eltaeb. Hello, Gabe. How are you, buddy?
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you so much for having me here. It's awesome.
We're going to have a great day, man. It's going to be a high-quality effort, I think. It's going to be good. So.
What is high quality effort?
Remember,
like high quality?
Charles Bronson is watching. Just remember that.
The man.
Charles.
Let's go, Charles. Hey, I got $10 says Blabs has no idea who Charles Bronson is.
Yeah, I'm a wrestler.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. He's world heavyweight champion. Yeah,
And the Intercontinental Champion.
I can literally
TV
see
champion.
I can literally see Dean Cain shaking his head in disgust. Look at this. Just
I've already made him upset.
You messed it up, Blabs.
Bronson? Oh my! One of the greatest action stars ever.
So
Ever.
Wait, isn't there a movie about him, Bronson?
nope.
I swear there's a movie about him.
That's
It's called
about
Bronson.
a criminal.
Oh, different
Same
Bronson.
name. That's not
He
him.
is-
I'm just gonna shut up now.
He's the original badass. Well, one of the original badasses. He's amazing.
Blabs, if he were here right now, all of our beards would grow like 3 feet long.
It would.
Oh, mine too? Cool.
Yours
Yeah,
too.
you do. You would actually get a full Tom Selleck mustache and everything. So
golly. The Tom
he's
Selleck
one of the
mustache,
manliest men to ever act in Hollywood. He's the original tough guy, So
he is the epitome of toxic masculinity, and
Yes.
it's spectacular.
That's why I love him.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed us today. That's kind of the fun of the show. Is Blabs is from a newer generation, so we
Did you
get to
say
introduce
previous
him.
life?
Well,
He started.
you do have an old soul, which is great. You have an old soul, but you still are younger than everybody, which is great. But yeah, I'm glad you guys are here. I'd like to remind everybody, if it's your first time tuning in, we are live over on YouTube, obviously over on Rumble as well, at rumble.com/sidescrollers. Do us a favor, hit the follow button over there. Join us and all the freedom-loving, common sense-loving mother suckers over there, over at rumble.com/sidescrollers. We also have a Twitter account over at x.com/sidescrollerpod, where you can find out who's going to be on the show. You can find out that Gabe and Superman were going to be on the show, which is great. By the way, I think we should probably start off right there. Dean, do you ever get tired of that? When people are like, hey, it's Superman.
No.
Awesome. Love that.
Think about it. I mean, it's like the greatest American icon ever. I've played a lot of different characters. Never any as manly as Charles Bronson. However, you could have called. I played Scott Peterson. I could be known as Scott Peterson. I don't want that. I played, all kinds of different characters. If you're going to be known as one thing for the rest of your life, Superman is pretty decent to go with. That's all I'm saying.
Not bad. It's definitely. By the way, my mom just texted me, Dean, and
Oh, here we go.
It's just googly eyes and hearts. So
Oh.
congratulations.
Tell her
Well, I
I'm
guess
very
I guess
flattered.
she and I never dated. I guess that's perfect.
Oh, she's watching right now.
Hi, Mom.
Listen, Gabe, she knows. She knows.
My-
Tell
Mine
her I'm
actually-
married. I'm
Mine
married.
actually bought your comic too.
Yes.
She was like, I want to support it.
Let's go. Love that.
Texted me after you guys came on my show.
That's awesome.
Well,
And it's
we're
a great comic, so she'll be happy.
We're definitely going to dig into the comic here in just a little bit, which is great. But we also are live over at kick.com/sidescrolls. Also join if you are tuning in over on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, join the 67,000 lovers of common sense in the video game and entertainment space who are, as we're just growing so quick. It's awesome. Also hit the thumbs up button, as our goal is always 500 thumbs up, and our membership goal every single show is 25, as we're currently sitting already at 20, as Certainty Off Strife and CR Vox came in with 10 memberships apiece. As we always like to ask our guests whenever if somebody goes on the wall, Gabe, you get to decide today what color of the sticky note goes on the wall.
Oh,
You get
well,
Don't say green.
my
Don't say
favorite
green.
my favorite color is red. So whatever's
Red it
closest
is.
to red. So.
Red it is. All right, sounds good. They're going to go on the wall, which is great. So Vox
Closest
and
we have for red today, Gabe, is pink.
oh no, it's very red. It's very red.
We'll have to
We're extremely masculine on this channel. Definitely, very, very
Real,
masculine.
real men. Yeah.
Real
That's right.
red.
That's
Like
right.
Charles Bronson. Right,
Charles Bronson, the pro
Both
wrestler.
Bronsons.
We should, Blabs. I feel like we should definitely do some sort of Charles Bronson like montage for you and get you introduced to exactly
Okay.
and all of his movies. Be great.
He's got these movies called Death Wish, and they are hard to watch, but they're hardcore. So yeah, it's got a young Jeff Goldblum in the first one. So.
Man, did you guys like the
That's
remake?
right.
Didn't they do a remake with Bruce Willis or something? Was it Bruce Willis who did the remake?
You watched
Yes.
Death Wish?
Yeah. What'd you guys think of that one?
I never saw it.
It was all right. It's too slick. I like the old ones. They're cheap and dirty and just brutal. So yeah.
Just like Gabe. No, wait. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm going after that this morning. I haven't finished my
early.
coffee yet.
It's early here in California.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for waking up early. All right. Well, let's get it. We're gonna get into some news and stuff, which we're gonna do our traditional show in a little bit. But I think we should obviously start off and talk to you guys about your project that you guys have going on. And I think let's just kind of start there. You guys saw there's an issue in the entertainment space, and that's why this show exists. That's why Geeks and Gamers and Nerdrotic. That's why all these shows are popping up, because we're saying, hey, this is dumb. This is not right. And you guys are doing something about it. And, Gabe, I think it kind of started with you. You left your position and you said, I want to do this thing and not bend the knee. Is that right?
Yeah, I just long story short, I dreamed of working for Jim Lee since I was a little kid. He hired me at DC Comics in my late 20s. I worked there for the better part of 15 years. They got a little bit too woke for me, so I walked off of a Superman book, actually. Dean noticed that in the news. He contacted me. We became, even though he's a Buffalo Bill and I'm a Denver Bronco fan, we became friends anyway. And he helped me promote my first independent comic, Truth, Justice, American Way. When I was about done with that, about a year ago, I contacted him and said, if you could have made any crazy action movie, like your dream movie that you could have started in the 90s, what would it have been? And we came up with this character, Chris Tanaka. He's kind of a James Bond, Indiana Jones, that kind of guy. And I pitched Dean a plot. He loved it. And I'm putting the finishing touches on the InDesign file today and getting it to the printer. So it's been a long journey, but if you order it now, this thing's going to the printer, I think Wednesday, actually. So yeah, we're at the end of a long journey here. It's a great throwback to 80s and 90s action adventure. Good is good, evil is evil, beautiful women, explosions, fast cars, and a deep story about fathers and sons and doing the right thing, no matter how terrifying it is. It's about heroism and inspiration. So what do you think, Dean, of this project?
I think all the things you said obviously are very, very true. But for anybody who's looking at it just from a visual perspective, it's gorgeous. Like, here's just a couple little ideas, little things that we have in there. It's just gorgeous. It's really, really beautifully illustrated. And the story is, I think, fantastic. It's a lot of fun. But that's one of the things that struck me. It's just how gorgeous this thing is to look at. Some of the panels are just ridiculous. I could have the panel and behind me or on the wall. It's so cool looking. So it's a lot of fun. I'm super proud to be part of it. Gabe's done an unbelievable job. Akion, our illustrator, has done an incredible job. I'm over the moon excited for it. So it reads like a movie, feels like a movie, and after I read it, I felt like I watched a movie. So it's a movie that I liked. So it's pretty great, and I'm super proud.
That's how I wrote it. It's obviously what I had in mind was 80s and 90s action movies. So this is ended up being 110 pages of story. The graphic novel itself will be 116, I think, but 110 pages short, and it's about like an hour and a half. Awesome action movie from the 80s and 90s. And I did the coloring and the lettering and the writing. And my friend Akion, he's like a 30-year veteran of animation and comics. He did the black and white illustration. And like I said, I'm literally just wrapping it up today. I'll be putting the final touches on the file for the printer, sending it over to them, getting a once-over, and we're golden. So you will get it soon if you order. I think the books get to me in middle of March, and I start mailing them out then. So yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Where can everyone go to order it?
BigManComics.com. That's my website there. That's my publishing company, Big Man Comics. It's easy to remember because I'm a big man. So it's BigManComics.com. I am. So go there, get Dean Cain, All-American Lawman today. You'll be thrilled. You'll love it. Guys, this is what they took away from you. This is that action and adventure that you love. We're giving it back to you. You're welcome.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. You said this is what they took away from you. Right?
Yes.
That's a pretty powerful statement. So when did you guys start specifically? Dean, your career started in the 90s. Gabe, you're what, 42, 43? Like
45.
You're around 45. Okay, well, you don't look a day over 42, 43. So you guys, when was it? Did you guys notice in your respective industries kind of this shift in culture to where you're like, this isn't the way it's been? Was it in the mid 2010s, like a lot of people say, or was it before that? Start with you.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I can't put my finger on exactly when it took place. It was really slow, pernicious little thing that just started building. And I've never been somebody who really succumbs to that. So I didn't pay much attention to it. And I continued to speak my mind and do the things that I do and say the things that I say. I think it happened. I can't remember when it was, but it was under President Obama during his term when they started to demonize police officers. I just happen to know a lot of people who were police officers and ex-military and guys like that. And they took tremendous offense to it. Then I started seeing this weird dynamic shift. It's why I became a police officer shortly thereafter, by the way. So I am a currently sworn deputy sheriff in Frederick County, Virginia, for real. And I joined up because of this sort of anti-police rhetoric. I don't know when that was, though. I can't remember specifically. And then I think everybody just lost their minds when Donald Trump got elected. And then it just went full bore. I mean, before that, even during the election, everybody's talking about diversity, but never diversity of opinion or diversity of thought. And so if you were on the wrong side of that, oh my gosh, you're going to get just attacked. I sit on the board of directors for the NRA, have for 7 or 8 years now, 10 years. And I've been a police officer for 10 years almost. So I'm a target for those who scream, it's all about, bad policing and it's and guns are bad and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been an outspoken critic of those things. I'm a history major. I went to Princeton University. I've been all over the world. I studied everywhere. I was with our troops in Iraq in 2005. And even when I did that in 2005, I was told, obviously be careful because you're in the middle of at the time, a very hot war. And it was way more than I expected. But people were like, against the, military being there and I was like, look, this is just about our men and women. The reason I'm over there was to support our men and women in uniform. So I guess maybe it was starting to happen then and I was aware of it, but it never was something that I decided that I would jump on board with. And believe me, Craig, it's a lot easier to jump on board than to swim upstream as a salmon against the river because they just want to silence you. I think I've been canceled 56 times now. And I've been called every name in the book, bigot, racist. You name it. I've been called all of them. And all of it's untrue. It's just crazy. It's just having a different opinion. So I don't know when exactly it took place, but it was certainly, I was aware of it even in 2005 a little bit. So it's been a slow, pernicious little build. And now it's it's gone full insanity. And I think the pendulum is swinging back. However, shows like yours, books like the one we're coming out with, different movies and things are, fighting against it. Even Top Gun Maverick made a big difference. That stuff is sort of pushing the pendulum from the far left back toward the middle where it should be.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what about yourself?
I noticed it, working in the comic book industry in that second Obama term, like the 2010s, the early 2010s, like 12, 13. I noticed it since I was a kid, like political correctness, but we used to make fun of it in the 90s. There's a great clip, you could search for it on YouTube, of the Kids in the Hall, who I love, the sketch comedy group, where it's an art school and they're doing some nude life drawing, and some feminist, whatever, stands up and says all the talking points that they say nowadays, but it's played for laughs in this clip. They're just making fun of the far left person. And now it's like that's what's being enforced. But I noticed it in comics in the early 13, 14, but it was still kind of like, whatever. And then it just kind of encroached. And eventually they're telling me that we're making anti-American Superman whose underage son sexuality is going to be the focus of the book. And I'm like, see you guys later. Good luck with that. So I'm not doing stuff with underage kids and all that weirdness. No, thank you. That's not what I do. I would tell people, I don't want, you got to knock on my office, kids, before you come in grandpa's office here when I'm working on comics. I don't want that. You know what? I want to be proud of what I do. I put my dad's name on this. That's, our family name. I don't want to put my name on filth. So I thank God to have made good friends with Dean and make wonderful, entertaining stuff. And it isn't boring. We're not some Melba Toast, goody two-shoes kind of comic. It's like Indiana Jones. Bad guys get shot and killed and all that. But we're not doing the over-the-top, sex and gore and cursing and all that. So you can read it to kids and you'll feel safe handing it to a kid. But as an adult, you'll be fully entertained reading it. So it's riding that line of Indiana Jones and Star Wars, the original ones, not the new Star Wars and new Indiana Jones. So that's what we want, because that's what we need. Because I know that stories inspire people. So it's so important to have some fun, and that fun is the medicine, the sugar to help the medicine go down to give a great, inspiring story. The
fun is a big part of it too. Yeah. It's that moment when Han Solo, and Princess Leia were there, and she's like, "I love you," and he says, "I know." That sort of stuff. Those things, those moments are throughout. Gabe's done a great job of weaving that stuff in there. Really. Yeah. Moonlighting sort of dialogue, really, or I guess Blab's Moonlighting was a show way back in Charles Bronson. It was it was after Charles Bronson.
I have heard of it.
You don't think Disney thought it would be fun to have old man Indiana Jones and a wife beater shaking his baseball bat at kids playing loud music, which is a real scene from that new movie?
Yes. It opens up with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally how they open up to modern Indiana Jones, like where he's at.
Oh, I don't want to watch that.
He's sleeping in a chair. Like you see your old man sleeping in a chair. He's in a wife beater and his boxers, and he gets woken up to like loud kids partying and having a good time. And he shakes a baseball bat at him, telling him to quiet down.
Yeah.
Sounds entertaining. But Dean, I'm glad you mentioned that Han Solo Princess Leia dynamic. When I wrote this script, one of the most important things to me is that sexual romantic tension, keeping it clean so everyone can read it. But Veronica, the main female lead, and then Chris Tanaka, the main male lead in this story, they have that play between them, like Princess Leia, Han Solo, like Wilder and Colton in Romancing the Stone, just a favorite of Dean and I. Romancing Stone, Blabs, is a movie from 1984 starring Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. It's one of the best action adventure. It's got Danny DeVito in it. You may have heard of him.
I know him, yes.
Okay, everyone run out and watch Romancing the Stone. This has a lot of that tone in it.
Yes.
It's so thrilling adventure, bad guys, hidden treasure kind of stuff. It's really fun like that. But I want to make it. Go ahead. Sorry.
If we remake that movie specifically, you could play El Guapo.
Yes, that's right. El Guapo does mean the handsome one. So
it does.
Yes. Well, it's okay. So Dean, I got a few things for you. So you went to school at Princeton, right?
Yes,
and the Ivy League is generally thought of as nowadays this is the epicenter of all things woke, right? Mm-hmm. Did you feel this at all when you were there, or did the females gender studies minor not exist when you were there?
I don't remember the female gender studies minor. Kind of don't really have minors, or you have a major at Princeton. I don't remember having a minor.
Didn't you major in female studies when you were there, Dean?
Well, if they gave a degree for that, this is possible. So I felt there was little twinges of it, and it felt stupid to us. There was this big march, Take Back the Night march, about women being assaulted on campus, which of course I'm against 1,000%, but you can't take, the night is the night. It's nighttime. Don't do stupid things. Always be aware, always be vigilant as a man or a woman, wherever you are. The campus is extremely safe. But I remember that was something like that going on. And I remember hearing about it being like, oh, okay, whatever, take back the night. Okay. I don't know a single person who had been assaulted, not a single woman on campus or anything like that, but it became this big thing. And they were also trying to get women into so Princeton was predominantly male until I think 1973. It was all male. And then the first class of girls came in. By the time I was there, it was almost 50-50. It was kind of 60-40 men to women. But some of the eating clubs, which are our social clubs, didn't admit women because you'd have to go in there and what we called was bicker, but you'd have to go in there and like rush, like a fraternity. But there were 4 clubs, I think, that didn't allow women. Now they all do. But I remember when that was a big thing going through. I happened to have chosen to go to one that was 50-50 men, women. You had the choice. If there was an all-woman one, I wouldn't have had a problem with that either. So, but I remember those things sort of popping up, but nobody ever tried to sort of put this woke ideology, and you see it with teachers. You can see it when it's coming. You can feel it with your professors if they're trying to push something. I was taught at that time, have the discussion, more discussion, fight back, put your opinion forward. Nowadays, it's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. And I would have loved to have been there again and had that stuff happening because I would have fought back against it. I wouldn't have just gone in like, I think it's because I have a really good, strong family. And I think I was raised with pretty good morals. And I saw the world in not black and white, but kind of like Chris Tanaka does in our comic, good and evil, like good thing. This is good. It's good that people have an opinion and differing opinion and can discuss it and not hate each other. That's a good thing. And maybe you learn from somebody else. If you can change my opinion to something else, wow, okay, I see the light on that and great. Maybe I can change yours, but be open to it. And that's sort of how I was raised all the way across. And so when they started saying this is the only way, I'd lose my mind. I would never, ever have gone with it. And at the time, I didn't feel like Princeton really did that. But now I've seen a lot of things that they've done Harvard's been way worse. Way worse. Harvard's lost its damn mind. But Princeton's been, pretty decent. They do some stupid things that I disagree with, and I call them out openly on the news, on Twitter, X, anywhere, right here on this show,
Right.
if that's the case. And they've done some really stupid things. And so,
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying. So you voice your opinion, and of course, as an alumni, when you do that, and you stop giving money, and things like that, people start listening.
Right. You guys have both brought up something that I think is a real important part of what's missing in society right now. Is you both have said, particularly, you brought up your upbringing, you brought up your parents, and you brought up the strong upbringing and specifically a strong male role model for you as you grew up. And you see these people who are, I don't know, lack of a better word, broken, right? They've been broken, and that seems to be a common thread amongst all this is they either come from broken homes or they come from soft parents who want to be friends instead of parents. And I don't know, I would love for you guys to speak on that a little bit.
Well, as Dean was saying, just to expand on his point from his previous thing real quick, but I'll get to the final thing. The name of the first volume of our comic is Dangerous Freedom. And there's a line in the comic where he's telling the girl that he prefers dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. So it's
Thomas
very...
Jefferson.
Right. It's Thomas Jefferson quote, kind of famous guy. Blabs. That was one of the founding fathers.
I know who he is.
Actually older than Mr. Bronson here. Yeah,
just by a couple of years though, only.
Just a little. They went to Princeton together, actually. But about fathers, Chris Tanaka, our main character, that's who Dean is playing in this movie comic book. His son is in this, and there's a very important thing about fathers and sons in this. He also meets I won't spoil anything, but there's a huge thing about being a father, being a son, and the theme of the story, the entire theme is you do the right thing no matter how terrified you are. And those things were instilled in me by my dad, my grandfather, my football coaches, and I know for sure Dean has a wonderful father that raised him. And I think that what you said, Craig, is exactly right. It's what's missing in society. You see all this misery and broken homes and broken families, people leading these lives of they seem like pointless and dead end, relationships, dead end jobs. And it's because we don't have male leadership. We've been rejecting it in this culture for about 100 years. It really took over in the 60s and 70s, all that cultural revolution. But, without men leading the way, you see the results. Like, anyone can dispute it, say I'm being a sexist, but I fully believe women and children cannot go where men will not lead. And I am sick and tired. I don't blame, like, a lot of guys get mad at feminists and all this, blah, blah, blah. I get mad at the men. You're supposed to be protecting and providing and leading these people, and you need to be fathers, good husbands, good brothers, all of it. And that requires self-discipline and control. And again, the theme of our story is control, self-control. You do the right thing, no matter how you feel about it. You can have any feelings you want as a man. You don't have to listen to them if they're telling you to do something wrong. So that's key for us. And that's why we make the story so much fun and excitement, so you can get that lesson without being like, we're preaching at you like a left-wing story where they're just beating you over the head with shame and indoctrination. So yeah, fathers, that to me is like the most important thing. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather now. I have a year-old granddaughter, but yeah, that's the most important. I define myself as a father and husband. Even though I'm a professional artist and writer and all that, what defines me is father and husband. So it's of the utmost.
First thing on my Twitter bio is father. My son is 23 years old. He's sleeping because it's only 9:30 in the morning out here on the West Coast, and he doesn't have to get up for anything. He graduated from college last year, and he is my best friend, but I'm also his dad. I am his dad. There's no question that I'm his dad. He's named Christopher after my father, who adopted me when I was 4 years old. If he didn't adopt me, man, I don't know where I would have gone or what I would have done, but it wouldn't have been good. I don't think. I was a very aggressive, strong young male, and I needed a real strong father. Fortunately, my father came into my life, took over, and was the greatest father I could ever ask for. And he instilled so many values and morals and things. He's a farm boy from South Dakota. He rode rodeos. He rode bulls. My dad was just a badass. And then he came to Hollywood, met my mom, and then decided to be a director and made movies like Young Guns. So that's my dad. And he has been such a wonderful influence on my life, that so much so that I gave up being what would have been at the time, if not the highest, one of the 5 highest paid actors in television, to do a show, because I was fighting for joint custody for my son when he was 2 years old, 1.5 years old. I would have to move away. And so I had a choice to either be a father or go make all this money. And I chose immediately to be a father. And we're talking, tens of millions of dollars. It was a lot. It was more money than I'd ever seen, and most people would ever see. But there's no way I would give up everything I have right now just to be my son's dad and live out of a van. I mean, whatever it takes. I would never do. He is number one, and he knows that. And that's the way it should be for kids. That's what gave me all the strength and the internal strength to take on things that are unpopular and do things that I know are right, is that I have my family behind me. I had my dad there teaching me this all the way along. I was a football player. Gabe and I were both football players, and you can see those 2 helmets there. It's my Princeton helmet, my Buffalo Bills helmet back there, which only lasted like a little bit of time because I got hurt. But that's another story, Blacks. And so, that's
the Buffalo Bills are a football team. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
So, that's the kind of thing. It came straight from my dad, and the discipline and the time. I remember even at Princeton one point in time, I was hating it at Princeton my sophomore year. And I was ready to get out of there. I was like, screw this. They don't treat their football players well. I was trained with UCLA and Troy Aikman and Flipper Anderson and these guys. I was like, they get treated great. Everything seems wonderful over there. It's LA. The weather's fantastic. It's where I'm from. So I thought about leaving my sophomore year. My dad had been off making a movie, and he came there. I look at those moments in my life where I'm like, right in that pivot, like, what am I going to do here? And then my dad flew out right from Brazil, where he was filming for like 6 months. He had been there, and I visited him in the summertime, but then I hadn't seen him again. In my final game, my sophomore year, he came out there. He had malaria at the time. Didn't go home. Flew right to Princeton, New Jersey. Got there, watched the game. I had two interceptions that game. Sealed the game. Won it. The whole deal. And he was there, and I was ready to quit at Princeton and take a scholarship somewhere else, because the Ivy League doesn't give athletic scholarships, and I could have gone anywhere. So I was like, screw this, I'm out of here. And my dad just, with some of his sage farm advice, slowed me down. I look at the same thing. It's like when you talk about, like, people are talking about God. You're like, God, I look back at my life, and the footprints in the sand thing. there's usually you're walking next to me, but in the toughest times of my life, I only see one set of footprints, and God says, yeah, that's when I was carrying you. And that's what it felt like for my dad. Those moments, my dad was always there. So I want to make sure as a father that I instill that confidence and that self-determination in my own son, and know that when that's tough, I will carry him until I can't carry him again. And then I guess he'll carry me. But that's the biggest thing in my life is having that really strong father. And that's something so sorely missing with so many people today. It's so sad.
Heartbreaking.
It's funny because Elite Neo came into this, and I'll get to everyone else's super chats here in a second. And thank you guys very much for your support. But this is a great one. It says, "Wait till your father gets home. If you heard those 6 most feared words, you knew you screwed up royally and were dead where you stood." Right.
There was the show. Wait till your father gets until you don't know this. Nobody knows this song.
Wow, no. Even Charles Bronson may not know this one.
Yeah. I just showed who I showed. You just, but I just showed who the oldest person on the panel is right now. I guess that's pretty straightforward. But there was. You could look it up. It's a song. It's a whole movie or a whole cartoon about kid get in trouble, and then when the father got home, you were busted. That was the name of the thing. Wait till your father gets home.
Yeah, that's awesome. And but it's totally missing in today's entertainment. Which you think of it so I grew up watching your sitcoms in the 90s, and all of those shows, your TGIF lineup, it was all built around a nuclear family with a mother and a father, and whether it's Full House, Family Matters, Black, White, it doesn't matter, right? They all had a strong nuclear family. And it's about the family being together, and that was awesome. That was great. And everything seems so scattered. I go back to, I've said this many times. I've bought companies, I've sold companies, I've built companies. But at the end of the day, the most important thing as a man that you can do is that you will build is your children and your family. And that, I'm 100% with you guys on that as far as making them the priority, because the best thing you can do is put good people into the world by the time you're said and done with it. So it's such an interesting conversation. But so how do we return? How do we get back to a place is this indoctrination? It's in our colleges. It's in our entertainment. You guys see this from 2 separate industries, us a third industry. How does this shift back? How do we get back to this point of embracing masculinity, embracing family values, traditional family values? What's the steps to get there?
I'm to me, it's twofold, and there's one thing I can do about it. To me, it starts with the laws, like the family court laws. They disincentivize marriage and all this stuff. It's very bad. I know a lot of family members that have been divorced, and it's just horrific. They do incentivize destroying divorce. That is not by accident. That's on purpose. Elites want to ruin normal people. What I can do about it as a great writer and artist is I can make art that celebrates these values in a super entertaining way. We never ever want to be moralizing and teaching it. I don't ever want you to feel that way when you enjoy my stuff. I want you to feel like, hey, I was entertained. And then subconsciously it's you know what, that guy was really brave and he loved his family and he fought for them and this, that, and the other. That's the subtext, hidden inside all the entertainment. But that's what I can do about it, because those are my God-given gifts as an artist and storyteller and all that. But yeah, I do think in the more serious way, it starts with the laws. You have to incentivize marriage and family, which is completely disincentivized now. You need 2 incomes now. So now mama's gone and the kids are at daycare, and then the blah, blah, all that stuff. That hasn't helped anything. My wife is a super high level accountant, like a senior. I don't know. I'm an art guy, right? But she's
a lot smarter than Gabe too.
Yeah. I'm not bad at math. It's just math is boring. Anyway, and you ask my wife, who's achieved, got her degree, super high level accountant, what she likes. And she's like, I like being a mother. I like being home, cooking, this, that, and the other. I enjoy that. It's so much more rewarding than counting somebody else's money at a company for 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? So I do think the destruction of the family comes in there. I think that's so terrible. And again, what people like Dean and I can do, well, we're artists, so we can make art. But I do think it starts with the laws and all that too, but that's not my purview. So what am I going to do about that? So.
You can speak up like you've been speaking up and say the things that you're saying, and have Charles Bronson in your background, which shows that, and you can celebrate, heroes that do wonderful things. And I see a lot of people fighting back, on the internet or even in films and things of that nature. If you're making certain types of films, that sort of stuff that celebrates that sort of masculinity, family values, those sorts of things. They always say politics are downstream from culture. You make the right kind of films and the right kind of product, you can affect people. Someone's going to be inspired by the things that are said, but between the characters and Dean Cain, All-American Lawman. They will. The words you wrote, the things they said, they'll look at that moment. I won't give away anyway, but they'll look at a moment where he's talking to a child or his own son, and he's giving him these lessons because you just saw him live them. And then you see this and you go, wow, okay, that's a strong man. I want to be like that.
Right.
I want to be someone who does that, who you can depend on and who is good to their word and so on and so forth. And so you want those strong values. I remember getting them all the time from TV shows and stuff when I was a kid. Brady Bunch was one of my favorite shows. Right. We'd watch that, and you were watching A Nuclear Family. It was a strangely, developed nuclear family, but the parents were there. They were always raising their kids right. They were trying to teach them the right things to do. But they were a blended family from two different marriages, and that's okay too, but they were a stable family doing the right thing. And I think what we can do is make product like this book and other movies and things that celebrates those kinds of issues.
Right.
Gabe, have you I'm sorry, just curious on that. Have you seen any pushback as far as distribution for the comic? Has anybody said, no, we're not going to cover that, we're not going to have this in our store, or are you strictly looking to sell just on your website?
For now, distribution is just through me, but I have seen friends that try to go the traditional route, and the comic book news websites refuse to cover it. My good friend Mike Barron, he got thrown off of Kickstarter because someone at the Daily Cost said that he was making a bigoted comic about border control issues. And
it's not bigoted.
That was over Private American,
right?
Which is a good book.
I did the cover. I did the cover art for him on the cover color art. But so there is pushback. But the funny thing is, jokes on them, because all those woke comic book news websites, a lot of them are going out of business and this and that, because people like authenticity. And if you're just going to be woke and lie about everything, eventually people get tired of it. You know what I mean? If you're just going to lie and call everyone a racist and a homophobe and an ist and a phobe, whatever. Like it just gets old. So, but one thing I want to say about politics being downstream from culture that Dean mentioned is so important. There's plenty of scientific research. You can look it up yourself. I'm not Google for you. That shows storytelling is the most persuasive form of persuasion. And that's working on the amygdala, on the subconscious, and all that stuff when you see a story. And if the artists are good, they can create a good story. And now whatever their message is, an evil message or a good message, you will believe it subconsciously. So if I tell you awful things, that the father is stupid and the family's dumb, religion is dumb, America's dumb, and I'm a good artist and I'm good at telling you these evil things, you'll believe it. And then you'll vote that way. So I did say earlier that I think the laws need to change. Well, if our story's good enough and we execute as artists, good writing, good drawing, good everything, and in movies, good acting, all of it, then we can convince you subconsciously that these things we're saying are true. They're going to feel real. They're going to feel true. And then you're going to think, I guess I do believe that. And then you're going to live and vote accordingly. You're going to become what you think. You know what I mean? Whatever you believe, you're going to act on. The Bible says that, right? Faith without works is dead. So if you don't do something, you don't really believe it. But in turn, if you believe something, you will do it. You will act on it. So if we get people to believe these good things, we can inspire them to live better lives and then, be a benefit to society. That's my ultimate goal, is to entertain and just help people, because the misery I see, it's heartbreaking. I know so many people that are divorced and people that are fatherless, and it's just terrible for them. It's very sad.
It's rough, man. It's an ongoing conversation, man. And it will not stop for a long time. Dean, you said you feel like the pendulum is starting to swing back, and I've talked about this multiple times on the show. I feel like ultimately it was my generation's fault that a lot of this stuff has happened. I'm 42 years old, and the reason I say that is because when we grew up, hearing the word racist, homophobe, bigot, they meant something. If somebody said, "Hey, that guy's a racist," you go, "No, I don't want anything to do with that guy," right? So when my generation gets put in middle management at some sort of comic book company or whatever, and somebody comes at them and they say, "Hey, well, that person," or you don't want, they use those words, you don't want to be homophobic, you don't want to be racist, transphobic, whatever. These people went, whoa. These people might, whoa, that you're right. We don't want that, right? And so actions were made because they were more or less scared of those words. They didn't want to be labeled those words. And over time, they realized it was just, that's really what it was. It was words. There's no action behind the words but people were scared of these labels. And over time, these words have been diluted to absolutely almost nothing. Because as you said, you've been called all these things, and I've been called all these things. Blab's been called these Flash, Gabe. I'm sure everybody's been called all these things. And it's like, actions speak louder than words at a certain point, So
I think my favorite moment in the false accusation of being a bigot, it was about 2 years ago. We had the recall election for Gavin Newsom, slimeball California governor, and Larry Elder was running to take him out. And the LA Times, I think, wrote an article saying Larry Elder, who, if you don't know, if you've never seen him, he's a black gentleman. They said he was the black face of white supremacy. To me, that was the zenith of this nonsense name calling, and it's all downhill for leftists from there. It was like, okay, you're not serious people. This is over. He's not the black face. How that, that's just ridiculous on his face. So we had fun with that. That was completely ridiculous.
It's insane, but they still do it all today. Larry's awesome.
Look at that white devil.
Larry's a great friend of mine, and he's the White Devil. He, in fact, when he got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I was one of his 2 speakers. So great friend of mine, great guy. I'm glad he ran for governor. They were trying to get me to run for governor opposite Gavin Newsom, and I considered it. But as it is, Gavin Newsom basically drove me out of California. I live in Henderson, Nevada, as of 8 months ago, and I'm happy as a clam because the horrible policies are horrible policies, and that's what he's doing. And but they went crazy with that stuff. I've been called a Nazi. I'm somebody who's like, I'm the honorary president of a foundation called From the Depths, which really honors the non-Jews who harbored Jews in Poland and elsewhere in Europe during World War II. I visited Auschwitz and with my son and taught him all about the evils of Nazism and about not accepting people and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and about vilifying somebody for their beliefs or their race or their gender. I've played gay back in films when it was not cool to do so. It was like, oh my God, how terrifying. In the early 2000s, they're like, everyone's going to think you're gay. And I said, then I did my job. I've played every kind of character. I played racist characters. I played this, I played that. If you know my friends, it's like the UN. We've just got everybody. Gabe's half Mexican, half Lebanese. He's all confused. My given name is Tanaka. I'm Japanese. I'm quarter Japanese. My given name is Tanaka. When my mom remarried to my father, I became Cain. I played in the NFL. I mean, most of my friends are black. It's not even a thought process. So it's my buddy on the people are like, Dean Cain, what a racist, blah, blah, blah. My best friend's black. He's like, yo, you guys are giving me news. Thanks for that. It's good to know. But that stuff is just stupid. It's just stupid, and it becomes totally insane. My 2 god kids are half black, half white. Everybody's mixed. It's the dumbest crap in the world, and all this virtue signaling stuff that's going on, and all this race baiting and crap that goes on. I think there are people who are race hustlers out there. There are people who are transphobe hustlers out there. Whatever, they're just looking to label you and create looking at Al Sharpton or Attorney Benjamin Crump. These people are literal race baiters. They are disgusting to me. And I hate what they stand for and what they're pushing. And I hope that sort of a cancer sort of disappears from our society because it's a joke.
Right. And can I expand on your football thing there? All this racism and bigotry, again, this is why masculinity and fathers is so important. When you're raised in the masculine culture, whether it be football, military, any masculine pursuit, they're about meritocracy. So growing up in Southern California where I live, it's very mixed. My best friend growing up, Filipino guy, but I never cared. Like, we're friends because we're friends. We lived on the street. We played football together. But when you're on the football team, it's all about meritocracy. You don't care what race anyone is, and that's how masculine cultures work. So I do think when we get back to this father-led culture, because people like smash the patriarchy. Patriarchy does not mean rule by men. It means rule by fathers. I'm like, you want to smash the patriarchy, the one that created refrigeration and surgery and space exploration and all the good things you seem to enjoy every day. You want to smash that patriarchy, huh? It's like, you're not going to like that if you take that away. But I do think a lot of the bigotry they think they see, well, it tends to go away when you have these masculine systems of meritocracy. Because I didn't ask Dean, hey, you want to work on a book together, but you're not over a quarter Japanese, right? Because I always promised myself I would never work with anyone who was a bad driver. So I can tolerate a quarter Japanese, but if you're half, we're gonna have to talk. No, I don't care. I don't care at all. If you look at my friends, like Dean said, it's like the United Nations. I'm working one of my co-hosts on YouTube is black guy. Again, my best friend's Filipino. My wife is Mexican. I'm Libyan and Mexican. Like, I don't care. I just care if you're an honest, decent person. That's it. So
it's almost like that. Yeah, yeah, right. You're horrible. It's ridiculous.
It's terrible.
Well, I want to give everybody an opportunity who's watching to ask questions of Gabe and Dean today. So if you guys do have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. We'll get to those in just a few minutes. Obviously, Dean, a lot of people know you as Superman. We kind of opened talking about that, and it's interesting. There's a guy that you worked with. This is just strictly me, as somebody who grew up on the Mighty Ducks, right? You had the opportunity to work with Lane Smith, and Lane Smith to me was like he was the guy I never knew, but I always liked watching him because he was great. I didn't know his name or anything. Could you just give what was your experience working like with Lane, Mr. Smith?
Mr. Smith. Lane Smith, for those of you who don't know, played Perry White on Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Extremely accomplished actor. Talking way back in the day, in New York, growing up, with all these major De Niro, folks like that, all these major guys. Great actor, such a wonderful guy. I learned a ton just working with Lane to see how he'd come on, how he'd prepare, the things he would do. And then I was regaled by the stories that he would tell of growing up. I would just shut my mouth and listen. And wonderful guy. The best, I think in Lois and Clark, we were fortunate enough to get the best Perry White and the best Lois Lane of all time. And I think they really were both fantastic and loved them to death. And Lane was just, it's one of the things I learned is to, when someone's got more experience than you and has a tremendous body of work, is to shut your mouth, learn and listen. And that's what I try to do around Lane. And I just whenever he was on set, I was just happy. And it was just fun. And because he'd take over and do his Lane thing. He's just fantastic. And I was honored to be on screen with him. Like I said, I would shut my mouth, listen to him, and learn.
That's awesome. Love it. Let's get to some questions. Then we'll get into some news here in a little bit, because there's one news story of the weekend, which obviously, Dean, you being a filmmaker now, I would love to get your thoughts on this, and Gabe, especially in the comic book industry, how this all pertains to it. We'll get to that in just a minute. But Alex came in at the 5, says it's awesome you got Superman here. Too bad Clark Kent can't be here.
I only have my glasses.
Your spectacles.
M2M says, I want to see Blabs react to the soccer ball scene from Death Wish 5 so she can understand how special / iconic Charles Bronson is.
He's pretty amazing.
Poor Blabs.
These are brutal movies. You've been warned. They're brutal movies.
I don't think I can watch them then. I can't do gore and all that.
Not so gory, but brutal.
Yeah, there's not gore everywhere. He does kill everyone.
Butterflies.
Okay.
He just takes out the trash. I mean, it's not really.
Now, they are street criminals. I'll give you one thing, and then we'll move on from Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
He goes out. He hates crime that's going on in the city. He's an architect, but he wants revenge for some reason I won't go into. He gets an expensive camera and just walks down the street spinning it so muggers will try to steal it from him so he can shoot them and kill them. That's what he's up to. He's just killing street criminals.
Justice.
Justice.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, Big Top wants to know, Blabs, do you know who Terry Hatcher is?
No.
Oh, you're going to hurt Dean.
She played Lois Lane on my show.
Oh, her. Yeah, I just
back in the
read about
90s.
her. Sorry, I'm bad with names.
Oh, my gosh. She was every
she's
boy my age.
gorgeous.
Oh, my gosh.
She reminds me a bit of Marissa Tomei in some photos. Funny enough.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
The thing is, about her, she's the best Lois Lane of all time, and she's beautiful and sexy and sensual and all that stuff. And I had to kiss her all the time. And I will say this.
Tough.
She's a
tough.
fantastic kisser.
Yeah.
So just know that.
Yeah.
She was a great Lois. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, she was. I think she's the best Lois.
She's a great woman. Sorry. Okay. Hey, listen, I don't.
Everybody calm down.
Yeah, everyone just relax, Craig.
There's
Relax.
lots of stuff in here.
Okay. Here's something I don't know. I've never been an actor. I don't know these things, right? So when you kiss somebody, like, is there like a screen kiss versus an off-screen kiss, or do you just go for it? Like, how does that work?
It's different when you're kissing on screen. It's different than you would kiss off screen. Yeah, it's different. A screen kiss is much more closed mouth kind of kissing, and you don't get all that tongue stuff going on in there and things. And well, just because it doesn't look sexy on camera, kind of a thing. And they're very specific. People think like those scenes are super sexy, and no, there's 50 guys around. There's people everywhere. They say you got when you turn your head here, it looks better if you go here. That doesn't look good. You got to move this and cover this and so it's real technical. It's not that sexy. Although I don't know, we got pretty good at it. That's all I'm saying.
That's awesome. Neckrunner came in. He says, Dean, except for the Max Fleischer Superman cartoons, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, is the favorite version of the characters. Almost all Superman of the 80s and 90s were great. Even if I can't say it in person, I'm glad I could do it here. Awesome.
Thank you. I love hearing that. Best thing I can ever hear is people say, I grew up watching the show. It helped me get through high school. I was inspired by the character to be a good person. I grew up watching Lois and Clark. There it is. I love that. It's the greatest thing because I grew up watching shows, or my son grew up with me watching shows. We'd learn from the shows. We'd pause the TV and talk about what's going on and how that might apply to life to us. And the fact that people, they say, my grandmother and I sat there and watched it every Sunday, or my grandfather, I bonded over this and that. And whenever I see the show, it makes me think of them. And that's the nicest, most wonderful thing I can ever hear. And I hear it quite often at Comic-Cons and things. And I just, it makes all that hard work really feel good. You feel good for having done that and created something that lives on. And, nowadays it shows again online, and people are like, I watched it as a kid growing up, and now my kid's watching it growing up, and it's great. It's got great morals to it. It's a really strong show. I think it holds up real well. I mean, the storytelling is storytelling. Of course, the effects aren't the same as you might get nowadays, but it feels 90s, man. It really does when you watch it again. And there's something so lovely about it. So I'm really proud of that, and hope that the younger generations can rediscover it.
Al came in and says, I'll definitely be picking up the Dean's books. He was my Superman growing up, and he upholds those values. It's a shame the only superhero actor that actually believes in truth, justice, and the American way is British. Okay. Thank you, Al. Appreciate that. Shadow Vessel says, I'm 48 years old. Lewis and Clark proved that Jonathan Kent does not have to pass away. Thank you, Dean, for being my first cool live action Clark Kent.
Shadow Vessel's dead right. I loved the relationship in the film and the show that Jonathan Kent was alive. Martha Kent, made his costume. They were just caring parents. And it's wonderful to have that. Part of why I think I got the role is because those parents were still alive. In fact, the final audition scene I had to do to get the role was a scene with Jonathan Kent talking about how he's different. He just wants to fit in. But because he is different, he knows he's different. And then his dad giving him sage advice. I had that happen in my life, 500 times with a father who was wonderful. So it was that was the final audition scene where I got it. And that's a big part of the show, was him leaning on his parents for advice. And they are small town farm couple from Kansas, Midwestern American values. And they imparted that upon him whenever he had, issues to deal with in the show. And I thought that's a great part of it. It gets back to what we talked about at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Can I, Craig, would it be a problem to share my screen real quick? Because I want to talk about what Dean's talking here about inspiring people. So back in like 2017 or 18, I did a fill-in issue of Superman, illustrated here by Barry Kitson, written by the amazing Peter Tomasi. And it was about the Justice League going to a children's hospital. And they played with kids, scavenger hunt, all this fun stuff, because it was a kid.
That's a great, I've read that.
It's a cancer ward, and the implication, they don't say it, a lot of these kids are not going to live. They're going to die. So the Justice League just gives them the most fun day of their life. They play around with them, and Superman takes them all to the moon, and he carves their names in the rocks. You know what I mean? So it'll be eternal. And I love working on this sort of thing where Superman's all about love and hope and compassion and all that. And I've had this comic, I have so many people bring it up to me at Comic-Con to get it autographed, and they'll be crying and saying, their daughter here, she's 10 now, but she was on death's door, and they gave this to us at the hospital. And we read this to the kids and this, that, and the other. And there's a charity, Comic Books for Kids. They reprint this every couple years and give them out to kids at hospitals and this and that. They just reprinted it again this year with a new Tom Nguyen cover on it. But I'm so proud of this. And when Dean talks about the show, the impact it had on people's lives and how you can feel sad or scared or whatever, and you can be lifted up by a story. That's why this is so important. That's why I had to get away from DC Comics when they turned evil, basically. And God led me to have a great friend in Dean where we can make wonderful, exciting, thrilling stuff like Dean Cain, All-American Lawman. Go get it now, bigmancomics.com. And you can have these kind of feelings where you're entertained and excited, but you also can be inspired. This is why I want to do this. I want to do something worthwhile with my life and, entertain people and touch them inside and make their life better. So, yeah, it is. I think that, Dean, is that why when you saw my story in the news, why you reached out? Because it was Superman was the book I was leaving, and obviously played him. And just what Superman means, man. Like, how dare they do that to Superman of all characters?
Well, so obviously that's a close character to my heart. And when I saw that you did that and stood on principle, so I've seen this happen to friends of mine. I've seen my friends get Me Too'd or kicked off a show or something like that happen for something they said or tweeted or something they did way back in the day, some little comment or anything they said. And so when I see someone standing up against the machine and standing up for values and morals, and it happened to be Superman for you, I was like, I got to know who this guy is. I got to tell him. And I reach out to my friends when this happens, when they get ostracized and everybody runs away from them. Oh, they're poisoned now, blah, blah. I call them and I go, hey, I'm on your side, or I disagree with what you said, but I'm not going to abandon you. I want you to know you have a friend in me and blah, 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 blah. So I want to make sure you knew at that point in time that a former Superman supported you 100% and wasn't afraid to say it openly and honestly. And, people try to stay out of that a lot. And unfortunately they do. And then something like this wouldn't have taken place had I just gone, oh, well, good for him.
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah. No, it meant the world to me. The support meant the world to me. I remember I had left DC. It was a big scandal on the internet. And then you came down to San Diego to film something. And me and you and my wife, we all went out to dinner at that steakhouse. And I made that little short YouTube video. I said, hey, guys, I'm back with DC. Like I'm back with DC Comics. And then I turn the camera on and it's you. And you're like, yeah, DC, Dean Cain. You know what I mean? So that was pretty funny. So, yeah, thank you for the friendship. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that, we went beyond doing business together and actually became friends because we share these values. And it's really an honor to hook up with like-minded people that want to work hard and not back down. And again, the theme of our comic, do the right thing no matter how terrifying it is. It was terrifying to leave DC Comics. I made a lot of money there, and it was steady work. I was on autopilot there. They loved me. I didn't have to do anything. They gave me so many assignments. I had to turn some down, and made great money. I make more now, thank God. But I made really good there, and I didn't have to try that hard. It was easy, and it was scary to walk away from that. It was basically the only job I've ever had. I worked at Home Depot before that when I was in college. So that's my resume, artist, and I was a paperboy, I guess, when I was 12. So.
It's funny you mentioned that, Gabe. You're talking about like stepping away, and that's been a reoccurring theme from people who have either been canceled or they've stepped away from a position, specifically in the gaming space where we're at, where these people they've been canceled, they've been removed from their careers, or they've stepped away, and there's a lot of fear associated with that happening, where their life is crumbling and it lasts a week or so. But if you fast forward a year, and to a T, every single one of them is in a better place than where they were before. It's insane. And if more people would stand up and push back against the system or push against their narrative, it's amazing how much happier they would be.
I'll say this:
it takes that strength and courage, though, and a lot of people lose it.
And again, we learned that from our dads and our football coaches in that masculine culture we were brought up in. It's like, I'm not going to stand here and do evil with you guys. Like, no, I'm not doing that. This horrible new Superman. You do that shit, do that stuff yourself. So sorry, got a little passionate there.
No, love it.
But
how did that? Hey, Gabe, how did that Superman comic do?
Oh, it got canceled in less than a year. So turns out people didn't like it.
Not canceled. It just didn't.
A soft reset into a mini series.
Right.
Did they?
But that's a great point, because it shows that this doesn't work, because that comic got all the headlines. Every big site was like, oh, this is so fantastic. If you're so much free publicity from that, and it fell off the charts. So they got one issue where everyone ran out and got it, and then it fell off a cliff. that stuff doesn't work. Comic book fans don't want that.
Right.
And you would think they would have got this figured out by now, but
it didn't even get the sales on the first issue. Traditionally gets the big sales. That didn't get the sales. The 5th issue, when I left, that's the one that got the sales. I remember that they had to go to like a second or third printing. It only got the sales because I was like global news mocking them and just imagine you're going to a restaurant and the chef is standing in the front door of the restaurant saying, "Do not come in here." That's basically what I did to DC Comics. I'm like, "Do not buy this. This is garbage. I'm out of here. See you guys later." So yeah, I'm proud of that. I did humiliate them, and my only regret is that I didn't do it sooner and harder. You know, it's what they deserve.
Love it. Evan came in and says, "You've been a heck of an inspiration. I'm looking forward to reading the comic. You were my Superman when I was a kid." And Future Sport, to this day, is still a movie that I had a blast watching.
Man, I had more fun making Future Sport than Wesley Snipes was great. We were up in Vancouver. I got to skateboard all through that thing and and fight and just it was so much fun. Vanessa Williams, I had to make out with Vanessa Williams. It was fun too.
Oh, poor baby.
But that was a little odd. Her kids were there. Her boyfriend was a good buddy of mine. He was there too. I'm like, I'm gonna crawl in bed with your girl right now. He's like, okay. But that show was so much fun to do. Really fun to do. I had a blast.
Craig, I wanted to say about inspiration and story. You're saying stepping away and Dean stepping out and saying what he says in public. It takes like that bravery and courage. And I say all glory to God for that. But story, it persuades people to believe about life. A movie I loved, I've told Dean this before, 1989, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He has to step out into that invisible rock bridge, right? The leap of faith, you know, to serve God. He has to step out there. And I remember picturing that scene as I'm like writing my resignation letter to DC, talking to my dad about, hey, I think I got to quit. They're asking me to do some stuff I don't agree with here. But I remember thinking about Indiana Jones recurringly and him taking that, like, you know, close his eyes and just step out off the ledge. And I remember thinking, okay, God, this is my job. I got a wife, kids, mortgage. Don't let me fall here. And like you said, you check a year later, I've done way better work I can be proud of, made way more money. And I think you have to take that step. You know, you have to take that step of faith and you will be rewarded. You know, you can't just keep your head down because it's just going to get worse. So hopefully our stories, like Indiana Jones, the good ones, inspired me. Hopefully this story Dean and I have will inspire you after.
Yeah, and then we'll make more of them.
Right. Definitely. I already have ideas for the next one, and we definitely want to make tons of these. And I am putting on the spine. I designed the spine of the book yesterday. It does say 1 at the bottom. So this is volume 1. Help us make plenty more of these. Your support makes something awesome happen.
It'd be so just total chef's kiss if you can sell more copies than a Superman. You know, I think when it's be so be great. Rob on Wheels came in and says, "Love you and God's Not Dead 2D."
God's Not Dead. Boy, that was a little tiny movie that could. You know, I thought it was just a little fun movie, and Kevin Sorbo and we did it, and then it turned into this gigantic, you know, $65, $70 million theater film, which was great. And I just finished working on God's Not Dead 5, which is called Rise Up. I didn't know they had made other ones, but I knew they made them, but I'd never seen the other ones. But my character reprises in God's Not Dead Rise Up, so I'll be back. He's not a good guy. Oh. You know what, Blabs? You know I'll be back, right?
That's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And funny enough, Craig said that to me this morning. I was like, okay, Arnie. So I got the reference.
There you go. Love that.
Got one thing today.
Sci-Fi's Life says, as a guy who graduated in 2021, there's very little discussions or push for critical thinking in the classroom, and some of my teachers are concerned about it.
They should be. They should be. That's exactly what you go to college for. Is to learn critical thinking. So your beliefs and your thoughts should be challenged, and you should be able to defend them, and that should be something that they work on while they're there. The idea that you're not you go to college to learn critical thinking. That's just a nightmare that they're not teaching that.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because Blabs has booked for Wednesday. You want to promote that real quick, Blabs?
Yeah, so on Wednesday, I don't know if you guys were paying attention to the news a couple weeks ago, but there was a professor making the rounds, like even like actual national news, for his critical thinking on J.K. Rowling, where he was talking to the student and he was like, and the student was like, oh, so given the fact that J.K. Rowling is an obvious transphobe, and he's like, well, why? How? He's like, oh, she's just said it. He's like, pull up some tweets, let's talk about it. And he basically breaks down this entire guy's like thinking of J.K. Rowling from just her few tweets that she wrote down, saying, okay, how is this actually transphobic? You're agreeing with her statements now. And he's like, so he's actually coming on the show now on Wednesday, along with Dr. Rachel Lindbergh. So we're gonna have two professors who are currently experiencing the college life, and I think it's gonna be a great conversation to have.
That's going to be wonderful. I want to watch that because I watched that guy break down that young and it was wonderful because they give you that given like it's a geometry problem, and it's given that she's a transphobe. Nothing she said was transphobic.
Exactly.
Right. Everything she said was dead on. Like I don't say anything transphobic ever, but I've been called a transphobe all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say anything supporting Nazis. I've been called a Nazi a gajillion times. I don't say anything, against homosexuals. Been called a homophobe and all those things. So it's great to see someone break it down. But they want, there's a side that just wants a label, and once they throw that label at you, it sticks, and that's it. And you just keep calling somebody that enough times, they'll believe it. It's wonderful to see a professor doing that. Bless him. I don't know where he teaches, but I wish there were more of them.
Right. Yeah, Labs, I did see that. That was a great clip. And I know you're the biggest Harry Potter fan. She is, guys. She loves it.
Are you?
And what happened to Harry Potter, the video game, this year? Right? The weirdo cancel people said J.K. Rowling is a transphobe. Nobody buy this video game. Blabs, what was the number one selling video game this year?
Hogwarts Legacy was the number one selling game of 2023.
Right.
Did you see Count Dankula's tweet where he pointed out right-wing boycott? Yeah, there it is. One of the biggest beer companies loses billions. Left-wing boycott. Well,
number one.
Let me just break this down real fast, though. Like, this isn't exactly the win everyone's thinking about, because Hogwarts Legacy has tons of agendas in it. It was worked on by Sweet Baby Inc., which is a narrative company, drilling all the agenda in them. You have, like, you have transgender barmaids in the 1800s in Scotland. Like, that's not real. That's not, like, the wizarding world. So it's not exactly the win everybody thinks it is. Like, there's still lots of left-wing ideas in this game. So it's kind of like, these people cried about it, and we showed them who's boss, but this game still has those points.
I hear what you're saying, but if that game did do something good, it showed just how much people dislike all these whiny weirdos.
I'm there with you on that.
So let
most
Coach
people
Gabe,
that bought that game never played it.
That's the problem. It's like, okay, if you're gonna play the game for the actual game and the world you want to be in, not because of some ideological.
I liked seeing them melt down over it. It was great to me.
Let's think about the bigger picture, what that means. Okay, so I'll be Coach Gabe, Dad Gabe here. Everyone out there, everyone watching this who can hear me, you see the stuff and you don't say anything. And I didn't for a while either. It was chicken shit. I didn't say anything at DC for a while, but I knew. You can say something, and this game, my success, Dean's success, it proves it. It proves we have these weirdos outnumbered probably 1,000 to 1. They're just out of control and big and loud and scary, so it feels like there's a lot of them. But if we just stand up and say, no, that's enough, that's nonsense, you're acting like a crazy spoiled child, and we just put our foot down, you see, God has blessed me, bless Dean, bless everyone who just says no to this madness, because it isn't just crazy, it's evil. And you're supposed to hate evil. You're not supposed to hate people, but you just definitely hate evil. So this kind of stuff, this game selling 23 million copies, whatever it did, it shows that no, they can't bully you. They can't cancel you. Just stand 100%. Up to this. Be brave, like Indiana Jones, like Dean Cain, All-American Lawman. Be brave. You can stand up to this stuff.
Superman, if he wasn't scared of green rocks, came in and says, Dean, I wanted to ask your appearance on Smallville. On set, did you and Tom have any conversations about Superman? Also, in the upcoming Superman movie, what do you hope to see in the character?
Well, Smallville was a lot of fun for me to come on that show. Those guys, I think I was in season 7. We only did 4 seasons of Lois and Clark. I don't know how Tom and Michael and those guys got through 10 seasons. It's just a brutal schedule. Tom Welling is one of the funniest, coolest guys you'll ever meet. Phenomenal guy. So on set, it was fun. It was weird to watch someone else do the super stuff. and do the super speed and stuff where everyone else has to kind of move slowly and he kind of cruises through. I will tell one joke, is like one little story is he was doing that as we were rehearsing and he was like, I'm like, Tom, we don't do the sound effects. But he was so great and fantastic. Michael Rosenbaum, unbelievable. So I had a lot of fun doing the show and they did a great job with it. Like I said, Welling is one of the best guys you'll ever meet. So I loved being on that. And once Christopher Reeve did it, it was, I think, incumbent upon all of us who ever played the character or surrounding characters to be a part of it. Because to me, that's my Superman, Christopher Reeve. He's who I emulated when I was playing Superman. Superman was the disguise in my show. Clark Kent was the main character. So it was a little different in that respect. But whenever I played Superman, I remember Christopher Reeve and I played it like that. The second part of the question was, what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
It was where did he go? Where's Superman?
It was a good one.
Oh, he was asking about what you'd like to see.
What I want, what's going to happen in the next. So I think James Gunn, like if you look at the first Guardians of the Galaxy, especially the sense of humor in that, what I really hope he brings back is that sense of humor. There's a thing, and I love Henry Cavill. He was great in what he did with the Zack Snyder stuff, but that's a dark universe. And when he smiled, I don't know, I kind of felt uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And it's weird. I'm like, it's better when he's broody and just doing his thing, because that's the Zack Snyder world too. But I think Superman has to be able to smile and have a twinkle in his eye, and that Christopher Reeve, even the salute and stuff like that, that little bit of a smile, that wry smile. I think that's a big part of it. And I think he's going to bring the humor back. I pray he brings the humor back and that hope and that goodness. He's the big blue Boy Scout, and I want to see that. That's my favorite kind of incarnation of Superman. The Superman picking up all the kids and flying them to the moon. That's the guy I want to see, and I'm hoping James Gunn will do that. He's going to be imperfect as he will be, because he's Kryptonian, but he's human. He's been raised as a human being, so he's going to have some faults, but he's going to have those strong American values, hopefully, and a smile, and I hope it has that sense of humor, because without that sense of humor, I think it's not really Superman.
It gets lost on a lot of people that work on that character now. I mean, you're talking about a character that was an icon during World War II.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to see what they've done to him, and it does make me upset sometimes.
Question for Dean, actually. Do you think the next Superman's going to say this line in the upcoming movie?
I hope and I pray he says truth, justice, and the American way. It's in my Twitter bio as well. That's another thing, because I believe in it. And people are like, well, what is the American way? Well, the American way is the reason that everyone's jumping across the borders to try to get in here. It is about individualism. It's about the ability to compete fairly, not equality of outcome, but equality of opportunity. This is the land of opportunity because of our capitalist system, because of our American values. Anybody who works hard can succeed. Anybody who builds something should be able to achieve a level of wealth and security for their family. All the things like that are the American way. Hard work, determination, give everybody a fair shake. These are things that are very much instilled in the American way of life. So when they say truth, justice, and the American way, I believe in it completely. Gabe has a really interesting story about that particular phrase, which I think he should tell.
Right.
I remember.
Right. Well, I mean, just the Superman comic they had me work on. I was so excited when I worked at DC and got told I was going to be on Superman. We're going to relaunch it with a new #1, this, that. And I'm like, oh, awesome. And they said, Daniel Warren Johnson is going to write it. I'm like, dude, awesome. Just action. He's doing Transformers right now. He's killing it. He did Murder Falcon or whatever. It's just action over the top. And then like 2 months later, it's like, no, Tom Taylor's going to write it. And I'm like, oh, God. Oh, my God. He's so woke. What's going to happen? Sure enough, I get the script for the first issue, and it says truth, justice, and a better world. I'm like, gosh, damn it. I knew it. So I knew he was going to change the tone and everything. And that's just that Marxist, communist, daddy didn't know anything, heritage, tradition. None of it really happened. It's all me. All glory to me. Not the thousands of years of Western history that was given to me as a gift through blood and sacrifice. No. It all started this morning. I'm the genius. I made everything happen. That's that mentality of the leftists. They don't want to honor their heritage, their fathers, all that. That's why they say smash patriarchy. They hate their dads. They hate that concept that it wasn't all them. So, yeah. So that was the name of the first story. Then I start reading it. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, for them to get rid of that slogan, I remember Jim Lee, my hero, my favorite artist as a kid. He's out there on CNN or whatever, giving a press statement, proudly saying that that's an antiquated phrase and it's going to be truth, justice, and a better world or a better tomorrow or something. And I promptly ruined that for them. So I was very proud to humiliate them in the media about that. But yeah, I took that very personally. My father escaped the socialist hellhole of Libya. Family members, murdered, friends murdered there by a socialist dictator. And my dad is an American citizen. He's been here for I was talking to him on the phone yesterday. I think he said 46, 47 years, something like that. And, I don't know my family over there because that government would kill my dad if we ever went and visited, probably jail me and all that too, being his son. So I've never been there. I've never been to Africa. It was too dangerous. Now we could go. They overthrew the guy. But when I think about what America is and what it's done for me, and then on my mom's side, the Mexican side, we've been here since the 1700s before it was a country where they were in the Texas, Colorado territory. And when I think about what I could be if I was born in Tripoli, Libya, I wouldn't be no comic book artist. I'll tell you that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have this life that I have. So I thank God every day that I was born there, that my dad braved things to get here. And how dare anyone say that this is a crappy country? I live in San Diego, but 20 miles from Mexico, right? That's the border town here. Tijuana, Dean. Dean gets mad. I always pronounce Tijuana. Everyone says, I don't know. It's a mispronunciation. Last time I checked, that border right here in my city, just people coming over it all the time. People, there's still a line to get into this country because everyone knows what it is. It's not perfect, but it's the best country that's ever been in the history of the world. And don't watch what people say, watch what they do. They're streaming over by thousands a day because they want some of that American way. They do want it, and it's awesome. So,
well, what did you call your last comic, Gabe?
Huh?
The last comic.
As kind of like a middle finger to DC Comics. The name of my comic that I did before Dean Cain, All-American Lawman, is Truth, Justice, American Way. And it's a superhero comic that kind of celebrates classic heroism and family values. The climax of that book, page 47, because people come up to me and talk to me about that page, is the main character. He's sort of like a Superman type character talking to his dad about doing the right thing and being brave and taking on the bad guys in the final act of the story. He wants to kind of back down the main hero, and the dad's like, no, I believe in you. You're a hero. You're going to do this. And it's a great book, and it celebrates what we need to get out there to people, that you can do it. You don't have to bow down. You don't have to live a sad life of failure. I coached football forever, Pop Warner football and stuff like that. And I would always love the bad players because I would make it a point to make them good players by the end of the year. And I love seeing young men, they can't hit, they can't tackle, they're afraid of everything. By the end of the year, they're sacking the quarterback, getting an interception, and they're so proud of themselves. And I can look at them in the face and say, son, you did that. You did that. I believed in you. I cheered you on, and you did that. And we don't have that because we're missing fathers. We're missing heroicism. All this. Fathers are called stupid. Being heroic is called cringy and stupid now. And no. That's what got us here. It's a beautiful thing. So I just want to put more of that out there. And that's why that Truth, Justice, American Way, that's heroic to be that way. That's why that stuff is so important to me. So thank all of you guys to support me and support these books, because you helped me make this and get that word out there. Sorry, Dean, go ahead.
And I would say I would just love it if James Gunn put that phrase back in. That would just be amazing. So James, if you're watching, please put it back in.
He said he was gonna, but we'll see.
Right.
Oh, please.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be amazing. I'd like to be in the theater when an entire theater hears that, and I know I'll hear cheers, and maybe there'll be somebody going boo. Say,
boo. Yeah, right. I'm sure. There they are. Get them. No.
That's what the left does.
Right. Lord J, thank you very much. Appreciate it. That's ridiculous. $49.99 super chat. You're going on the wall, my man. Kratos came in, says, "Hey Dean, I loved you as Sean Kent in Rat Race. Best cameo in the film. Vlad, that's a movie about a rich guy that has convinced a bunch of normal people to fight.
Wait, Rat Race? You were in Rat Race?
I was in Rat Race. Do you remember the girl in the helicopter and her boyfriend was cheating on her? That was
I was cheating
boyfriend. Yeah.
Oh, that's one of my favorite scenes. I didn't even put two and two together. I love Rat Race. Love it. It's not as good as the original, it's a mad, mad world, but it's so funny. I know stuff, fun. Craig. Look, we're bonding.
What was great fun about that was every single time I was going to shoot something, they're like, okay, we're ready, roll cameras, cue the helicopter, and the freaking helicopter would fly in. It'd be a helicopter to react to. It was pretty awesome. Amy Small was great. Everybody was, Breckenmeyer was hysterical. Those are the guys I worked with. But, I mean, everybody was wonderful in that. John Cleese was hysterical.
Yeah.
Cuba Gooding Jr. was fun. I mean, everybody was just great in that movie. It was so much fun.
It's a good movie. They couldn't make that today. At least they wouldn't want to make it. They'd be like, oh, we might offend someone.
Well, no, the Zucker brothers would make it. That's who did it. They don't care.
They would do it again?
They would do it again. They did Airplane. They did all that. They'd do it again.
Good.
Love that.
It wouldn't be funded, but they'd do it.
Right. Yeah, right. Manic Pixie Fangirl says, Dean, as somebody who's still salty about the show getting canceled, what was going to happen with that baby?
Okay, well, the show didn't get canceled. The show was picked up for a 5th season. Lois and Clark was picked up for a 5th season, but in that interim or hiatus, Terry Hatcher got pregnant, and I did not do it, but she got pregnant, and it was a very difficult pregnancy that they were projecting for her, so she wasn't going to be able to film. I was suggesting, okay, well, let's do it where Lois gets pregnant, and we'll just sort of have her in the hospital, getting ready to have a baby and have a baby. We'll just sort of shoot in between. But they were like, no, it doesn't work. It's Lois and Clark. We need her all the time. So we're going to just have to end the series here at season 4. I don't know what was going to happen with that baby. I believe what they were going to do is have it be Kryptonian, royalty. We'd have to care for the baby for a while and fall in love with the baby and then lose the baby. And then, not be able to be the baby's parents, even though we bonded over that, and then have to lose the baby. And I would think that maybe Lois and Clark would have had children of their own. That's where I like to think that it would have gone. That's where I was hoping it was going. I wrote episodes of the show, and I wanted that to be where they went. But I also wanted to break the rules, because who would ever, maybe they could have gone from, 2 years old to 7 to 12 to 15 really fast, and we'd have teenagers. And who knows what the rules are with Gabe? What are the rules with Kryptonian? And it's not supposed to happen, but it happens.
Well, when a daddy Kryptonian loves a mommy Kryptonian, I can't believe nobody explained this to you, Dane. Come on.
No, but she's not a Kryptonian.
Oh, that's true. My bad.
With Lois, that was our problem. We weren't able to conceive.
Oh, well, I don't know that
in the show. So it would have been interesting to see what would have happened. You know how you always hear the stories of a couple who they're trying to conceive, couldn't conceive. Then they adopt a baby and they're caring for the baby, and boom, mom's pregnant.
Right.
It's constant, because they're not worried about it. They're just going on with life. And certainly when you have a child, man, you don't have time for anything else. I mean, it's all encompassing. So then that worry goes away, and then mom ends up getting pregnant. It's a weird thing that happens, but you hear about it all the time. So I kind of felt like that might happen for Lois and Clark.
Dean's curious. He says, Dave asked Dean, says, if you were given the opportunity to write and or direct a Superman film, what would you do with it? What era would you set it in? 30s, 60s, modern day? Which villain would you focus on?
Wow. I'd have to consult with Gabe on that one. I would want to set it now, just because I think there's so much that a Superman could do now with this current zeitgeist and the way things that people are talking about things, and sort of have the ideas that we've been talking about now about the patriarchy, about fatherhood, about being a strong man. But I think I'd like to start it, back in the 30s and bring it into today. Like he went away for a while and had to come back, and then step in at this point in time and sort of reteach all the things that we were taught back in the day. I think it would be something like that. I don't know which villain I would focus on. I'd probably create a new villain, much more like a Klaus Schwab kind of a guy, who is the super villain of all, and right. Superman's got to clean him up, and clean up those ridiculous ideas that he seems to have.
We got a lot of super chats, and I want to get them, but I also want to be mindful of Gabe and Dean's time. But I did want to read this super chat really quick, because Mike says, Dean's a real accomplishment in life, making it to the NFL as a white defensive back. That's a small list. And Gabe, DJW was a great book. Sorry, the business side of it became crappy. That's awesome.
You and Jason Sehorn, right? So
there weren't a whole lot of us in the whole wide receiver defensive back group of about 25 of us. I think there were 3 white guys, but I'm Japanese too. That was another thing that everybody, if my mom hadn't remarried into my father, who was my hero, my name would have been Tanaka. So you don't see Tanaka very often in the defensive secondary. You see Jack Jeremy Chin, you see a few names like that, but you don't see many. So Tanaka would have been a weird name to see out there. Cain was pretty good. But I'm half white, quarter Japanese, and mixed up in between the rest of the stuff.
Who was that white safety on the Cardinals like in 93, 94? He kept getting suspended for unnecessary roughness and spearing people. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You're talking about the hero, Pat Tillman?
Was it Pat Tillman?
He was for the Cardinals.
This was like 93, though. I think Pat Tillman came in like 96, 97, didn't he?
Maybe I'm wrong. Chuck Cecil for the Green Bay Packers?
Chuck Cecil, that's what I'm talking about.
Gary Fensick, Chuck Cecil. I can run through defensive backs all day. This is what I used to do, Blabs. I was a football player.
Is Champ Bailey the greatest cornerback of all time? I've never seen a guy with better tackling form than Champ Bailey.
Champ is amazing, but you're just sticking on your Broncos all the time.
What are you talking about?
There's guys like, Deion Sanders who were pretty amazing.
Yeah.
There's, Pat Fisher way back in the day. I mean, you could go all over the place for the corners. Hard to say. Ed Reed was the greatest safety of all time.
Did you ever get to know Adam Archuleta? He played for the Rams.
I know who he is, but I never got a chance to meet or know him.
That guy was a freak, man. That guy, he was a freak athlete. Ridiculous.
You can't. Everybody in the NFL is literally a freak athlete. People don't understand that.
Yeah,
they look at college games and they're like, "Oh my God, all these guys are going to be in the pros," and I'm like, "No, 4 of them will." And they're like, "What? Off that whole team? You're watching LSU, well, unless it's Alabama." But I mean, like you're watching Mississippi State play LSU, and there's going to be 6 guys playing the NFL, maybe 10.
Yeah, most teams only have like 1 or 2 pro caliber players on them. That's what makes college football so great to watch.
It is so much fun to watch, exactly, because you have that great disparity of talent, and so suddenly you see somebody just goes. But when you can see somebody like Tyreek Hill do it in the NFL and make everybody else look slow, you're like, wow, that's special.
Mm. I would love to get y'all's thoughts on this. I teased this a little bit ago, and this is kind of the story over the weekend. We only got a few minutes left, but I did want to get to this. This was kind of trending over the weekend. It has roughly 13 million views over on X. And this is a reviewer. His name is Chris Stuckmann, I believe. Are you familiar with this guy? He's a YouTube reviewer. Have you heard of this guy before?
I think I'm familiar with this story. I think I saw it on X.
Okay. So, Flash, you're familiar with Stuck, yeah?
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of his content, but I saw the controversy. He doesn't want to review Madam Web.
Right. So, Madam Web came out, and that movie's kind of getting panned. And this is what he does for a living. He's a film reviewer. But he's gone out, and just watch this 40-second clip here just to kind of give his logic here.
To myself, probably not going to do a video for this one based off of what I've heard, since I do try to keep it mostly about film celebration on this channel. Having seen the film, I'm going to tell you that this is not a movie review of Madam Web. I am not about bashing filmmakers, artists. I know how hard it is to make a movie. I do not know how hard it is to make a movie under the studio system. I was able to make an indie film without a giant corporation breathing down my neck, which is not the privilege that S.J. Clarkson had when she directed Madam Web under Sony, which I can only imagine was monumentally difficult. This is not going to be a video about Madam Web and telling you whether or not you should see Madam Web for myself.
Okay. So the long and short of he's saying, look, I've seen the movie. It's not good, but I'm not going to give you a review of the movie because he wants to talk about the larger zeitgeist of getting something made, right? And he talks, and I watched the entire video, and he talks about the hands and the corporatization of these studios being, putting their personal touches on these movies, and that there may be something that was written, but that's not what you're going to see in the finished product. Gabe, I would love to hear your thoughts on this from the comic book industry. Dean, I would also love to hear it from you, obviously, as a filmmaker and an actor. We'd love to hear your perspective on this. So let's start with Gabe, then we'll go to Dean.
One problem I ran into later in my career at DC Comics as things got more social justice-y is them bringing in these young, inexperienced editors. And again, as a football guy, my football coach better have played football to know what the hell he's talking about, right? I mean, that only makes sense. So he didn't have to play in the NFL, but played at least high school football, so he would know. So when I have an editor who cannot draw, cannot write, can't color, can't do lettering, how are they supposed to give me advice? I remember Akeon, the masterful illustrator of Dean Cain, All-American Lawman. We were working together on a project at a company. and there was a kangaroo in the story. And when you draw comic book pages, you do a quick thumbnail sketch. You just, 10-minute sketch, send these sketches to the editor. This is what I'm thinking for pages 7 through 12. What do you think? And they'll give you some ideas. And the editor sent him back a bunch of photographs from Google Images of kangaroos because he just, drew a triangle with the circle, just like here's where it is. This person's been illustrating and doing movies for over 30 years. You think they don't know how to draw a kangaroo, Miss 22-year-old girl editor? It's just stuff like that is like so insulting. Or they'll give story notes that don't make sense because I think they're all like failed writers, a lot of them, unfortunately. And DC and Marvel didn't do this in the past. They had good editors that were writers full-time writing, and they were great writers. They understood. They could give great story notes. Mark Chiarello, art director at DC in the past, he was a master artist himself. He colored the original Hellboy comics, and he worked as an artist forever. They used to do that. I don't know if it's a cheap thing now, Warner Brothers, whatever, but they go with these young social justice kids right out of college, and they don't know nothing. So that's a huge reason the comics and the work suffer, is because the people in charge of telling the artist or the writer, you're going to do this, they don't know what they're talking about. And then they have a left-wing agenda on top of it. So even if you took away their left-wing stupid politics, they still don't know what they're talking about to have artistic execution. So having the big studios there and having them bother you, bleh. Truth, Justice, American Way, my first indie book, and now Dean Cain, All-American Lawman, my second. They're the best things I've ever done in my career. And it's because I know what I'm doing, and I don't have some 23-year-old kid giving me notes that don't make any sense. So I think art is most pure when you have highly skilled artists who are dedicated to executing. What's it like in the film world, Dean? I'm sure it's worse.
Well, first of all, let me just clap at that answer because you're 100% right. In the film world, it's the same thing. It's there are studio executives who have never made a movie, who have never been on set, really basically working on set. They just sit there and they have to interject their opinion in order to be useful. And it may be the dumbest thing in the world. And they may make the most ridiculous note in the world, and it's coming from the studio. So you have to deal with that. My dad hated it. He hated when the studio was on set. In fact, one of his movies is, the studio guys, because if you're out there making the movie, you're making the movie and everybody's working and doing, you see the studio people come out in their suits and ties and agents and things like that. And so they came on my dad's set one time, and I'm not going to say which movie or which studio exec was, but he took the person's tie and he cut it off with a pair of scissors. It did not suit. It did not do well for my dad. By the way, that was not a smart move to do, because there was somebody who took great offense to that and became, vengeful, if you will. So that's it's a terrible thing. I was watching somebody, a director, and the directors are the guys you want to talk to, the girls, gals, whoever it is. Director. I've worked with male and female directors. Love it. One of my favorite pair of female directors are the Saska twins. I don't know if you know who they are. Yeah. Jen and Sylvia Saska. Mm-hmm. I did a movie with them called Vendetta. They were so much fun. They were so great, and they cared so much about what we were doing. It was a bloody, gory, beat 'em up, tough fight, kick-ass movie. They were great. But your director's your storyteller, and that's the person. You got some 25-year-old exec telling the director what it should be. That's crazy. So I was watching some director talk about this the other day, and I forget who it was, but it was somebody very accomplished. And they were like, look, make the movie for you. You're right. As a director, you make the movie you want to make, and then you're invested in it personally and you care about it. And that's the movie you should make, not this movie for somebody else, not somebody else who wants to do this. But it's tough when you're working in the studio system, because they're going to inject. They're the purse strings. So that's why there's been this whole wealth of independent movies and people making movies on their own, and they tend to be better films than the studio things. The studio projects, man, you got to have it's all like a little formula. Okay, it can be one of 4 actors here, and then 3 actors here. We're going to do this thing. What's we're going to make a new Snow White because we can't come up with our own new story and blah, 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 blah. And she won't be white. It'll be, Snow Brown or whatever you want to call her. And she'll hate the original source material, and we'll do this and and stuff like that. It's like, there are people making these decisions that shouldn't be making their decisions. They're not filmmakers. They're not artists. They're not creators. They're business people. And they hear that the best thing to do is go bash, Libyan Mexican dudes. That's what we should go do. And so that's what they'll push, without having any real creativity behind it or any reason for doing it. And it's unfortunate, but that's been the case for a long time, and it still exists now.
Right. Can I expand on that real quick about respecting the artist? One thing I love about Dean when we became friends is he's completely down to earth. This guy you see online here, this is the same person when we talk on the phone or meet in person, whatever. He's not, I was a movie star and played in the NFL and blah, blah. It's like, I'm Dean, your friend, and that's it. And I try to conduct myself the same way when I meet people conventions. I'm just Gabe. I'm a husband and father. I happen to be an artist. But you have to respect the artist when you're making art, insofar as they worked really hard and they do know what the hell they're doing. So just get out of the way and let me entertain your face off. When I write Dean Cain, All-American Lawman, Akeon, our illustrator, he's the director. And he's changed things in it because I trust him. He's 30 years in this business at the highest levels, animating and illustrating. And Dean, you know, page 104, he did that. I didn't even think of that. I won't say nothing. It's at the very climax. And he blew me away when he sent the pages. I'm like, that is so much better than what I had. And I trust his skill. I don't get my ego involved because this comes from football. It's about the team. It's about making the best product possible. I had an idea in mind, but oh my gosh, best idea wins. He had another idea. He said, what if this happened? You know,
best idea wins.
Right. So it's, yeah. So this is, we don't need a 22-year-old editor fresh out of sociology college telling me their great idea that they learned from their feminist whatever professor. We just need master artists that have dedicated decades of their lives to get good at this and let them go. So you guys, when you support this stuff, you're the purse strings. In the other case, the studio is the purse strings, and then they're giving you dumb notes and they ruin the movies. They ruin the stories. When you guys do this, the only agenda I have is to entertain you. You know what I mean? Just like, let us do it. We know what we're doing. And you'll see people that have read my other work, Truth, Justice, they were like, holy cow, that was amazing. This one, 100 times better. And the other one was great. So thank you guys for the support. The indie scene, that's the only place I'd want to be right now. I'm actually disappointed in myself I didn't do it sooner. Like the artistic freedom here. I was talking to Akeon about it. He says, yeah, this is like being a kid again when you would just draw at the kitchen table whatever you wanted. You know what I mean? Like
that's going to be the best stuff.
Right.
That's the best stuff.
Right. Because it's coming from the heart. It's something that means something to us. Like there's not a line I'm putting on the paper, not a word I'm writing, a dialogue. I don't mean. We mean with intention. Dean wrote this great character Bible before we started of who Chris Tanaka was. And I read it. I'm like, this is conviction in this thing. He's having historical quotes, what this guy believes in, this, that, and the other. And I was able to build this world off of it, but he meant it. And there was no editor looking over Dean's shoulder saying, well, Dean, I don't like him having this attitude because blah, 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 investor and this and that. Just we're allowed to be pure artists. And that's a gift you guys, when you go to bigmancomics.com, when you go, that's a gift you give us. So thank you guys for the support. It's amazing.
Awesome. Peach G came and says, okay, you talked me into it. Cover C is the best. So I'm buying that badly. Didn't read a lot of comics growing up other than F4. So I'm excited to pick this up. Hail Dean Cain and Big Man Comics.
Thank you so much.
Yes, that's awesome. I was going to make one little side note is my son he graduated with a video game design major from High Point University in North Carolina. Great thing, great school, great place, great campus. And he's creating his, little things. And he sort of created this tiny little game. It's not really a game. He just kind of popped it together. But he in the opening of his game, he says, you can choose to be a victim or to be the master. And I was like, where'd you get that, buddy? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, I know where you got it. I've been drilling it into your head for the last freaking 23 years, buddy. And
right.
You don't want to you're not a victim. You will be the man. You will not be a victim. Nothing you can do. You can always work your way out of it. And that's what he puts in his first little promo video game. I was like, I'm okay. Everything's fine.
Love it.
Proud dad.
Craig. Yeah, sure. It is. Craig, you said something earlier that you built Screw Attack, which blew me away, Dean. It was a video site way back in the early 2000s. It was the first videos I started watching of the Angry Video Game Nerd were on Screw Attack. And that was Craig built this successful company and he sold it. But Craig, you said something I love. You said you'll build a lot of things as a man, but the most important thing you'll build is your family. Right. I told you I'm a grandfather now because I have 2 adult children. My daughter's going to be 27 in a few weeks. My son just turned 25, and they're excellent people. And I'm like, how in the hell did I do that? Like, because I know Dean, Craig, whoever has children here, you look at your kids when they're little and you're like, they can't survive without me. They're little, they need food, they need this, that. And you start to think about your own mortality. As you get older, you're not going to live forever. You're like, I want to know that they're going to be okay when I'm gone, that they're going to thrive. They're going to take care of my grandkids. We're going to keep the Eltaeb legacy going. We're going to do it. And I see my kids now. Dean knows about my kids, about what they're doing. And wow, they have not, they're getting up to speed and now they're taking off. My son is like amazingly successful now. My daughter, she's just blowing it away. She's a stand-up comedian, and I'm so proud of her. She's winning those roast battles. You know what I mean? You've seen the roast battles where they just like destroy each other, and the real ones, like up in Hollywood at the Comedy Store. Jeff Ross was one of the judges. He's like the roast master general. She just won that like in the last month. She's won 2 of them, 2 more, and she's like the 2024 champion or whatever. And to see her, like this little kid I knew, and I started getting her into comedy when she was 16 because I noticed that she liked Saturday Night Live. We would watch it when she was a little kid. So I signed her up for comedy lessons when she was 16. Pauly Shore, you remember him? Blabs, that was a famous comedian in the 90s. His family's one of the premier comedy families. Right, the Weasel. And they own the Comedy Store in San Diego, in Hollywood. They owned one in Honolulu, no longer. And his sister, Sandy Shore, yes, that's her real name. She was my daughter's mentor since my daughter was 16. And now to see my daughter as a paid professional stand-up comic is amazing. She's pretty blue though. Like her mom blushes at some of the jokes. I help her write some of them. I'm kind of awful with some of the jokes too. So, it's amazing. That thing you said, Craig, and the thing you're saying, Dean, about your son being the victim of the master, to try all these years with your kids and like, oh wow, they can do it without me. It's kind of amazing thing to step back and watch them do it. So I love it.
That's awesome. I love everything about that. That's great. I said, I want to be mindful of your time. If you guys need to bounce at any point, feel free to take a step back. There's quite a few super chats I'm going to have to get through today, but and we appreciate everybody's support, obviously. But I do want to encourage everybody to obviously head over to bigmancomics.com and go pick up your copy right now, of course, of Dean Cain, All-American Lawman, right there, which is just the best title for a show, a comic book ever. I love it. Hey, Dean, personal question.
Yes.
You are an officer. You said you're a deputy. You said
deputy sheriff.
Do you are you a firearms guy?
A little bit.
No. Yes, I like firearms.
Do you have a personal favorite pistol?
Well, I like this is my everyday carry. It's a P3. It's a Sig Sauer P365. I like it quite a bit. I'm a reserve police officer in Pocatello, Idaho. There we carry the Glock 17. As a deputy sheriff, we carry the M&P 40 caliber. The M&P I really like to shoot. It's really of the bunch. That's still, I think, my favorite. But it's just how it's just a personal thing, how it fits in your hand and how that feels. And I like pistols with no safeties. I like to carry with a round in the chamber. And I practice my draw all the time, as anybody who is disciplined in what they do as an officer or anything should do. And when we qualify in the range, we have to draw and move and do everything. So it's I do like my firearms. I now live in Nevada, and I'm allowed to buy, even though I'm an officer and I could have gotten a letter from my sheriff or from my chief. I hear you can get weapons that you can't get in California.
You got to rub it in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, like I just got a beautiful, nice Colt M4 with a 30-round magazine, pistol grip, collapsible stock, all that fun stuff that you can't get in California because it's dangerous. Even though like the smallest amount of gun deaths and things of that nature happen with rifles. It just does. It's handguns and pistols all the time. Like I said, I sit on the board of directors for the NRA, so I'm a big Second Amendment proponent, and I believe in tremendous firearms safety. But I believe in knowledge, and everybody should be carry. Nevada is an open carry state. You can open carry on your hip. I see it quite a bit. At first, it surprised me. Then it actually made me quite comfortable. You never see as many people polite to each other as you see in an armed group. Go into a gun store. Everyone is yes sir, no sir, and there's no crazy movements, and nobody's gonna. Yep.
Yeah. Right. Did you get a chance to go out to SHOT Show by chance?
Of course I did. Okay. I absolutely went to SHOT Show, and I was shocked at how much and how I could have spent so much time cruising around. The people were like, "Hey, yo, come over here!" And I got some free guns. I got some free stuff. I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" A couple of my friends represent a couple of different firearms manufacturers. So they're over there with Benelli, and there's some great shotguns and things like that. I was like, wow, this place is like gun heaven over here. And it was also very safe, amazingly.
It's amazing right. It's amazing what happens when you put a bunch of people who have guns in a room together. How polite they are, as you
so
said.
polite.
Right. It's
yeah,
amazing.
It's great fun. Everything happens here in Vegas. That's the crazy thing. I see everybody. Gabe, you're going to be out here this weekend. Everybody's everywhere coming through.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's going to be
Love
fun.
it.
No, I'm. You didn't ask, but I'm into too, and I'm a supporter of the San Diego gun owners. I work with them a lot, and actually, the guy that designed my website, he's owned Sage Tree, web design for like 30 years. He went to UCSD here, but he's like one of the heads of San Diego gun owners. So I spoke at their symposium a few months ago. I'm speaking again on March 3rd, and they have me speak about culture and guns and all, and how all this is related and all that. And I'm a Glock 17 man myself. I'm very big and tall. Got giant hands, so I researched what was like a big pistol so I could hold it, because using my friend's gun once, and the grip was too short. So I do have that giant Glock 17, and but I'm a big supporter of all that stuff too, and I'm glad to be involved with the San Diego gun owners, because we are trying to get things changed here. We have this amazing judge in the district here, Judge Benitez. We call him Saint Benitez because he's throwing out so many of those liberal things. He ruled that we can have the larger capacity mags. He's like, but it's, they appeal it here in California to keep delaying it. But he is trying to get us our rights back. So, pray for
Bless him.
Yeah. So,
so I'm going to need to make some introductions for you guys after the show. I spent a year in the firearms industry in between my gaming space. So I'll need to make a few introductions for you guys. I'm sure you guys would be interested in getting to know some of these folks. With that said, appreciate you guys popping in. If, like I said, I'm going to read off the super chats. You guys can stick around if you like. If not, feel free to bounce at any point. But we genuinely appreciate you guys.
I have until just before 11, so I got a little bit more time.
Yeah, I'll hang out till right about 11.
Well, then we'll be able. Cool, perfect. We'll be able to make this thing happen. Alan says happy Monday. Hail side scrollers and the Salty Army, the 199. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate that. Apollo Monitors says Monopoly says, Southern Craig, I've been listening to you for months and have yet to hear you stutter once. You'll be hearing from my legal team. Ooh, Graph Reflex. Yes, thank you, Graph Web. Appreciate that.
Disney's been doing it. Disney's been its own worst nightmare, its own worst enemy. Yes. Boy, wow.
Did you see the votedisney.com website where they beg people to vote for their board members?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's great. It's just votedisney.com. Go check that out. It's you could see the desperation all over the site.
In my fantasy, Elon also buys that. He buys Disney, and we
yes.
Then he uses the SpaceX rocket technology, and he puts all the woke Disney employees on a Falcon 9 rocket, and they can be the first explorers to Mars. That's my fantasy.
Just right on off. That's great. Matthew says, how do we gatekeep the commies out of our institutions we reclaim or create? In the 1964 Civil Rights Act exempts communists from employment discrimination. How do we gatekeep? That's the bigger question.
Does it exempt capitalists too? Because they'll kick you out for wanting capitalism or meritocracy these days. So I would say, that's a great question. How do we gatekeep? I think you just merit. If it's merit based, it's done.
It's funny you mentioned that because we announced we just had our 1 year anniversary on the show, and we announced we're going to be hiring a third full-time host, and a lot of people have been asking me about that. So I guess maybe this is the first time I'm going to put this out publicly. Here's our statement on how we're going to hire and our DEI requirements. We will hire the best person for the job.
Oh, how dare you! Take it.
There you go.
Oh, great, there it is.
Take it.
I'll be posting that later on Twitter, just so everybody's fully aware of everything, which is great. Also, let's see. Tomac says, so Flash, how far with how far you are in One Piece, did you shed a tear for the boat? Flash.
Almost. It's a sad scene. I'm on like 317.
Oh, are you doing the whole entire the entire anime, all the episodes?
Well, no, I'm not watching the filler.
Oh, okay. You're just doing the actual.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were doing like all of them. Like, good gravy. Have fun.
I have been. It's a fun show.
Andrew came in and says, like Razor said on race baiting, the supply doesn't meet the demand.
Right.
And Snake Master says, Dean, you are definitely the most handsome Superman. Could you say Blabs, go back to your tower?
Blabs, go back to your tower.
Okay.
I don't even know what that means, but I said it.
Oh,
I love
that's
it.
great. Thank you. William says, Mr. Cain, thank you so much for being Superman for Gen Xers. We needed a man like you after Christopher Reeves passed away.
Well, he was such a great Superman. That was my first Superman. Christopher Reeves was just amazing. Amazing. And then I would argue with people like, what happened? What happened to him? His horse riding accident happened while I was doing Lois and Clark. And then they were trying to interview me about it. And I felt so weird. I'm like, I haven't had the honor of meeting the man. Why ask me any questions? I just think he was the greatest Superman of all time. But then after the way he reacted after his injury and the way he still carried on with his life, to me, that is the most Superman thing you could ever do. The strength that he had to do that. I don't know that I would possess that strength. And I thought that was pretty incredible. That was the most, like I said, the most Superman thing that could ever be done.
SPG says, learn a new phrase from it. It's a Gundam stream. If you're a red-pilled liberal, identify yourself as a born-again bigot. It sounds more empowering. Ben says, you believe in Jesus? You're about to meet him.
Right.
Charles
Bronson.
That's a line from Death Wish.
William came in and says, Mr. Cain, what do you think of Tyler Hoechlin's Hoechlin version of Superman and Lois?
I haven't seen much of it, but it sort of feels like it's in the same vein of Flash, Green Arrow, etc. So it's all made by Greg Berlanti Productions, and it's kind of got that same feel to it. So it feels a little darker than I like it. Tyler is one of the nicest guys on the planet, though. I think if you're going to play the character, you got to be a nice, good, genuine person. He's fantastic, and he's such a good actor and a great baseball player, by the way. But I haven't really watched a lot of that show, not because I'm against it or any problems with it, but I just haven't had the time to watch it. But it did look to me like a lot of the other CW shows. I'm sure it's the same crew and same bunch that they've been using there. So it kind of felt like Supergirl felt, and it felt like Flash, Green Arrow, and the others. So it had that same feel, and it's not my favorite feel, but I love that they have kids, and I guess I got to watch it a little bit more. But Tyler's fantastic.
I like it. It's not a bad show.
Good.
Matthew says, how do we get Dean Cain in a buddy cop? How do we get Dean Cain in a buddy cop show with Alec Baldwin in Nevada?
Adam Baldwin.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say Alec Baldwin in a Nevada town.
I'm not doing a buddy cop show with Alec. No offense.
Oh,
I couldn't resist it. I'm sorry.
wow.
Adam Baldwin is a phenomenal guy, and he certainly knows his firearms well. Great guy and a super patriot. I'm in. Let's go. Gabe, get writing.
Okay. After the Dean Cain All-American Lawman movie directed by Mel Gibson. Yeah.
Great. Phenomenal director.
Shane Black. I liked him.
Phenomenal. Let's go.
Yeah.
Anthony says, hey, Dean, when might you appear on Joe Rogan?
Oh, I'd love to go on Rogan. I mean, Rogan's fantastic. I've known Joe. Well, I've met Joe and spent some time with him. I haven't had a chance to have a sit down with him, but I know people who were on there with him all the time. Brian Callen, people like that. Rogan, bless Rogan. I love what he has done, what he has created. I love to hear what he says. I don't always agree with him, and he would hate me if I did agree with him all the time. Rogan's fantastic. I'm so happy to see his success, and it's so good that the younger kids are watching him and listening to him as well. He also knows his MMA very, very well, and obviously trains and does all that stuff. I love that he just wants to interview interesting people. So if he found me interesting enough, which he probably wouldn't, then I'd love to go on there anytime. I would sit with Joe anytime, and I love what he does.
Well, maybe he would if you ran for NRA president.
Well, we're looking for an executive vice president at the moment, and it won't be me. It won't be me, but our current EVP, just Wayne LaPierre, after many, many years of service, has retired. So we are looking for someone to take over. Charles Cotton is our current president, and I'm not stepping on Charles' toes, and those guys are great. And we'll see. If I did run for NRA president and push for that, if that would get me on the Joe Rogan show, maybe I should do it.
Music and Fiction says, question for Dean. What was it like as a guest on the Supergirl set? I've heard stories that the cast was great, but writing staff had Alaska-sized egos. Well,
the first two seasons was helmed by a gentleman named Andrew Kreisberg. Andrew Kreisberg knows more about Superman and DC Comics and everything else than I'll ever learn. He just knows the whole lineage. He knows everything about it. Super smart, great writer. He got Me Too'd, not for doing anything specifically. I think for the things he said, about, he's pretty much a straightforward guy. Like, no, she's got to look sexy in that, and she looks fat, or something like that. I don't know what he did or what the things he specifically did. He's a good friend of mine, and I liked the first 2 seasons of Supergirl, but after that, he was Me Too'd, and I think the show just drove itself off a cliff. And started doing some really, I don't know, non-superhero-ish things. I thought I didn't, other than Andrew, I didn't know the writers didn't have anybody else to interact with, and I think he was phenomenal. So I loved him. Andrew Kreisberg is a superstar, and I hope to be working with him. In fact, we have a project together we're talking about now. So he's great. So Supergirl was wonderful, and she was wonderful too. Melissa Benoist was phenomenal as Supergirl, and she's a sweet, wonderful person, and you have to be, again, to play that kind of a character. But I didn't notice any of the supersized egos in the writer's room. Maybe it happened after because I disappeared after season 2. You didn't see me anymore, and then I was apparently killed. I was assassinated. They asked me, they're like, "Hey, can we use this one bit that you were in before?" I go, "Are you going to kill me?" And they're like, "Yeah." I go, "No, no, not if you're going to kill me."
I got a funny Andrew Kreisberg. I hung out with him one time. Funny guy. I organized a signing at Meltdown Comics on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood because he was taking over writing Green Arrow when I was one of the artists on it. So I thought, he's local, I'm local. Let's promote this brand new issue with the new writing team, a new direction for the book. So I called people in marketing at DC Comics, like, yeah, we'll do it this day. Meltdown Comics, if you don't know, it's not there anymore. It was one of the most famous comic book stores in America, right in the center of Hollywood. So Andrew Kreisberg there, another writer, I forgot his name, gentleman, a really nice wife. And DC Comics is supposed to send over a ton of this brand new Green Arrow book for us to autograph. There's a line of people. We get there, they didn't send the books, and the store had 8 copies. So there you go.
Started ripping off pages.
Yeah,
just signed pages.
Waiting for autographs, and we don't have the damn book we've been advertising online. So way to go, DC. Another bang up job. So yeah, that's my Andrew Kreisberg story.
Great.
Winterville, thank you. He says this episode's been amazing. So many memories flooding in watching Dean play Superman. My dad would watch with me and my brothers, and we didn't turn out so bad.
That's the best thing I could ever hear. The greatest thing. Watching with his dad and his 2 brothers.
Worthy one wants to know, what was it like working with Denzel Washington?
Ooh. Denzel Washington is my favorite actor. He has been forever. And to do a movie called Out of Time with him and be the bad guy, he was just so generous as an actor and as a person. He's wonderful. And that's another opportunity where I just sat there. I shut my mouth. I listened and I learned. I would watch him in between takes. I would see how he'd prepare. He's one of the reasons he's one of my favorite actors is that he's just so natural. Like everything he's doing is so you never catch him acting. He's always doing something that I believe. And he is supremely talented. And outside of that, I love the advice that he gives in real life. He's not afraid to call it like it is, or to thank God for all the gifts he's received. And he's just a wonderful, overall, fantastic human being. And I got nothing but respect for that man.
I just showed my wife that movie last week. She hadn't seen Out of Time. And the scene in the bar, I've told you this before, Dean, it feels like you guys are actually going to beat the crap out of each other in that scene.
We didn't talk in between shots.
Because you could feel
he would come up with something new.
Boiling, just the eyes and the comments. And it just, yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Denzel's the best living actor. He's just out of this world good.
And I love to watch him. If he's in something, I just love to watch him.
Yeah. Wow. Those Equalizer movies are fun. I just saw the third one. Yeah.
All right, we got a couple more minutes, and I want to get to this because Retromeister just came in with a $50 super chat. It says morning strollers. Yes, Retromeister. Let's go. It says morning strollers along Dean and Gabe. Great to see you guys again. I have 2 questions. Would you say the 90s were more progressive, revolutionary back then compared to now? And 2, should the fans fight to protect these beloved IPs from vandalism? So let's go.
I think progressive and revolutionary are 2 different things in a weird way. So progressivism to me seems to always be going to something that's actually not progressive. It's something that's
regressive.
Yeah, regressive, very much so. And I think that when you talk about revolutionary, I think you're changing for the good. And the '90s, I don't know, we were doing anything too revolutionary back then. I don't know. Gabe's more of a student of DC history than I am. We worked closely on Lois and Clark with DC Comics, so we had them there, and we were having some fun. We couldn't do too much. Like I said, I wrote a couple episodes. I wanted to sort of push the envelope a little bit, and everything had to go through DC. But they were pretty good working with us back then. So I don't know if that made it revolutionary or progressive, but they were willing to. They weren't pushing woke things. Lois was already the key focus of the show. It was Lois and Clark. She was a strong, independent woman who also was vulnerable, which is, they kind of want to get rid of that vulnerability that we all have these days, which is weird. And I think that is regressive. Gabe, what do you say, boss?
What was the second half of that question? I saw the first part about the progressivism and the revolution. I agree with Dean on that just the 80s and 90s, if you were there, I was a kid and then a teenager, it felt like the future was limitless. Everyone, left wing, right wing, loved America. We were also proud to be Americans and our heritage. And like the future was going to be this bright thing by the year 2000. And then in the mid 90s, like a little cynicism just starts to leak in. And here we are now. But yeah, that trending, you could feel it in the mid to late 90s. Like what? Like people being negative and political correctness starts like getting a little momentum. And that was a cultural regression, in my opinion. And it just coincides. I mean, the Venn diagram is a circle of lining up, getting rid of the father culturally and all this nonsense. It's the Venn diagrams, they overlap completely. So we got to get back to those. And when I say fathers, I'm not talking about dictator, bully, kind of evil dad. I'm saying loving leadership. That's what a father's role is, loving leadership, you know. But what was the second half of that super chat? Because I don't want to rip this person off because they asked the second thing and I don't remember it.
Yeah, should the fans fight to protect their beloved IPs from vandalism?
Yes, much like we saw with Bud Light, vote with your wallet. I don't have Netflix. I don't have Disney Plus. I don't have any of that because I don't like the things they say about America, about Jesus, about families, about men, about women. I don't like anything they have to say about that, so that they don't get a dime. That's that. Vote with your wallet. And when you see things like Dean and I, like what we're doing, and we step out like this and we take a chance, reward us for it. You're going to be rewarded. We're going to entertain the hell out of you. But yes, vote with your wallet. That does have an effect. Whether you believe it or not, it does. It has a huge effect.
For sure. All right. Well, we're up against it. There are some super chats. I have saved them. I will read them off tomorrow at the start of the show to make sure we get to them. But I want to thank Gabe and Dean, obviously, for spending some time. Flash for toughing through his illness today. I appreciate you guys for what you guys are doing and being a part of the show today. Would love to have you guys back again. Everyone, make sure you go over to bigmancomics.com and get your copy right now. Get in on the campaign. And once again, it's important that you support these endeavors. It's beyond important. This is the pushback. This is the pushback in culture to make things right. So once again, go to bigmancomics.com.
Can
Gabe,
I say one thing about the comic real quick? Craig,
yes, of course.
Back up there. Guys, the comic book is done. You're not going to be waiting months and months and years to get this. It is done. I'm just editing it. We have a few spell checkers working for it. We're not going to send it out with spelling errors, but I'm already got the printer appointment for Wednesday and all that. So the files, I'm going to finish it today. Literally after the show, I'm going to have some lunch, finish up a few loose ends here, but the book is done. It's a masterpiece. I'm so proud of Dean and Akion and myself, what we've done here. And but it's done. That's a great thing. You can know when you send money our way, you're going to be getting something back very soon. I think mid to late March, we'll start shipping these out. You got to wait like 2 weeks for the printer to print it up and ship it over, blah, blah, blah. But it's done. And that's something I'm so proud of because this has been a journey to get this thing done.
Well, congratulations, guys. It's awesome. Flash, you got anything before we roll out besides Sudafed or NyQuil?
Support the book. It's great when you pay for a book and get it quick.
Yes.
Love it. And Dean, you got anything before we go?
No, I just appreciate you having us on. Thank you so much. It's when you're working in my business and you have to go on, you shoot a movie and you got to promote the movie, or you work on something, you got to promote it. Sometimes it can feel like work. But when you're doing something like this that you love so much and so proud of, it doesn't feel like work. So I'm so happy to talk about this and push it. And I said the Pledge of Allegiance in school too.
Let's go. Me too. Yeah, right.
And I say it now. But I love that, it's something that I'm super proud of and I want to talk about. So it's great to be able to have this opportunity. So thank you for having us on. God bless you guys. And like I said, thank you.
All right, guys. Head over to bigmancomics.com. Get your copy right now. Appreciate you guys popping in and have a great rest of your day. Remember, people are going to try to keep you down. Don't let them. You guys got a goal. Go get it. See you guys later.
Don't be a victim. Be the master.
Love it.
Fatality.